Good evening and welcome to another episode. Actually, this is not just any other episode of the Power Hour. Not only is it our mid-summer finale as we are off next week for the holiday, uh, it's a great time to bring in our guest tonight because he is one of our favorites. He is a guy that is so interwoven into this business that hearing his stories of his travels and his trials and tribulations will be good fodder for the soul. Because right now we're all running on empty, to coin a Jackson Browne song from the 70s. Um, you know, last night, well, before we go into story time, let's welcome our good friend, a man that's been on our show many times, a man that will be on our show many times more, the one, the only, the golden voice, as we are labeling him now, Mr. John Bullard. How are you, John?
Steve, I am doing wonderful, my friend. I hope you are doing just as well, and I hope you and the family and all the good people in our lives are doing well.
We are punching, John, and we are breathing and we are living. So it can always be better, but it can most definitely be way worse. So thank you. I appreciate you. Tonight's about you, and it's a good night here because with Rachel tending to her mom duty, she won't be able to be here. C-Red was called out of town
Of course.
unexpectedly. There's a chance he'll be popping by a little bit later. But you know what? The urban sensation, that's why they call him the urban sensation. He's a man highly sought after in many venues, not just wrestling. So if he
Of
makes
course.
it, he makes it. The real deal Rion Skills will be joining us after a while. And it will be good to talk to him as we have when we're done wrangling John, we'll have some wrestle talk as he and I were involved in a bit of a fracas on Sunday. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on. I want to start before I get into the questions. We were talking before we went on air, about, the unexpected turns that life gives you and things that happen that aren't of your control that dictate, the ways things go. Last night, I was at a music show concert at Northerly Island in the city. Now, typically, when you go to a show right off the lakefront towards the end of June, it's 90 plus degrees. The sun
Oh,
is
yes.
shining, a breeze off the lake. But right now, that is not the case, as if you look at your phone and get the weather report, you will get hazy and smoke because we are in the midst of the Canadian fires backlash. So
Yes.
last night, we're sitting in seats half a mile from the city, and you can't see the buildings. It's so smoky. And the sun had an eerie red hue. And I sat there before the show was going on, thinking about you being on the show tonight, John, and thinking about the people wearing masks, because, people that have COPD and other things, having trouble breathing, but they're still out and about trying to enjoy their night and enjoy their show. And one of the acts came on, and the lady who is the lead singer of the band, you may have heard of them, John. They were popular back in the 90s, a band called Garbage.
Yes.
Lead
Very
singer's
familiar
name
with them.
Shirley Manson. She said, listen, we're going to have to cut our set short tonight because I'm COPD and I'm having trouble breathing up here.
Of course.
That kind of puts it in perspective. And she wasn't so much, I mean, she was concerned about herself, obviously, as one would be, but she kept apologizing to the fans who spent their hard-earned money, and she's physically unable to perform. And then I started thinking about refunding money, physically unable to perform. And then I started flashing back to when John went through a similar situation. This is the segue. When the last Chicagoland Championship show had to be put on the back burner while John faced some very real health problems. And I thought that would be a great way to get started because you've been active. We've seen you online, going here and there and everywhere, but we know you're fresh off of what could have been catastrophic. Can you bring the Power Hour Nation up to speed on your health and well-being, John, because
Yeah,
we're
the
all friends and we're concerned about you.
absolutely. And I feel like it's a good time as any to talk about what has been going on in my life. And I feel like why not do that tonight talking to one of my best friends, and that's you, Steve. You know,
Bless your heart.
so
I feel exactly the same.
I I was at work today and I sat back and I started thinking about how I wanted to go on this program tonight and talk about the whole life story. And I feel like there's three stories that intertwines with each other. And but first and foremost, I guess I can tell everybody what kind of was going on, if you don't mind, a little bit before I go into that question that you asked. I want to kind of lay out the whole story.
Absolutely.
There's 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 three different sections, I guess we call it, three different era when this goes on. So first one, the best way I could say it, on Facebook, find out that well-known pro wrestler and gear maker Jeff Greeno uh, died of a heart attack and a stroke, and he was only like 32 years old.
Oh no, I knew that guy.
Yeah, he made gear for Youth Gone Wild. He made wrestling gear for just about for
Oh,
everybody.
did that
So
happen today?
no, he passed away about last year, unfortunately.
That's right.
But
That's right. God, my memory is just
so
terrible.
seeing this, knowing that this guy was younger than me, had that forced me and my mind also thinking about this. Maybe I should get checked out too, because Jeff was a small guy and he had a heart attack and a stroke only in his early 30s. Something's not right. And maybe for all of us men, including women as well, but I look at us guys too, especially us big strapping guys or us hosses, they call them. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to go to the hospital, get checked out. And I went through about 7 different tests. And 6 out of the 7, I passed with flying colors. They even had me hooked up to the machines, made me jog, run for 2, 3 minutes straight, full force, no problems, right? Crazy to think this. And then a week later, I get a call from my doctor that says, "Hey, there's one more test I forgot. Forgot to get you on this. We need you to go do this test." I said, "What is it?" He's like, "Well, it's an EKG, it's an echocardiogram." And that's when we really take x-rays of your heart. We kind of look at stuff and see what's good, make sure you pass almost all your tests. Looks like it's really good. So let's do this. Go in, take off the clothes, lay on the bed, let them put the machine up against my chest, so that whole 9 numbers. And so about 2 days after the test was over with, I get my results. And it was just completely devastating. And it was like your heart is only functioning at like 29%. Your they were talking about my valves. They're like, what we found is one of your valves is actually regurgitating blood.
Oh
So
my.
instead of pumping blood through the heart the proper way, it was actually regurgitating the blood. And then you have this other vessel that's just pretty much on life support. I'm only 37, 38 years old at the time, haven't hit 39 yet. And just doomsday. When you meet any human being gets this, when you're a heart failure, you instantly know like this is usually when you get that sign, it's never always a good thing. So I went to my doctor, my specialist, and they were like, well, the good thing is that you did go to us early enough that you have a fighting chance and a possibility of stopping this. It's going to take time, though. It's going to probably be a while before we could do surgeries or any form of procedures. We'll give you some medication. This is the stuff to do. And what made it so rough, so you think with heart failure, you think, okay, must be like obesity or eating bad foods and stuff like that. Total opposite.
Nope.
Total opposite of it. It comes from a genetic defect that's actually on my mother's side of the family. And it's killed about 17 family members on my mother's side alone. The youngest was 6 months old. The oldest was 42. So instantly, when you find out through family history that what I had was literally a death sentence. And it makes you look at life differently. It makes you look at, okay, do I go on? And the choice I had to make was I could sit here and cry about it right now and be full of depression and be full of anger and rage, and that won't do me not a damn good bit of good. So what I need to do is live my life. I need to take this seriously. I'm going to fight it head on, and I'm going to do as much as I can to spend time with my family, my loved ones, and the things I enjoy the most. So I did that. Now, other segue comes into this as a story was the night at the Homewood Auditorium, and I got the permission and blessing to do a special ring announcer spot. Now, when a lot of people know about me, when I first broke into wrestling business, the very first job I ever had was being a ring announcer. Because even at a young age, I had that big, deep voice when I talk, and I got on radio at a young age, so people wanted me to ring announce. And so it was, I think the last time I ever did full ring announcing, God, had to be like 2010. So it was a long time for I haven't picked up the microphone and even tried to ring announce anyone. The last time I ever did it was when we gave the tribute to Christopher Martinez, the
I remember
Chicagoland.
very, very well. I remember that.
And that was one of the hardest damn things I ever had to do was do that for him. So what made that night so important to me was it was a chance to ring announce not only our heavyweight champion Chris Logan, who hey Rion, how's it going, buddy? But someone who has put the company that I built on his back and has done so much for Chicagoland. And the other person, Lala Shrella, anybody who knows him personally from Japan, when he comes to the United States, he stays with me and my family. We're literally his adopted family here in America. So he'll stay 2, 3, 4 months at a time living with us. So me facing the consequences of death and knowing that anytime I could die from this in my sleep, it was a special moment for me because I got to ring announce someone who I love tremendously as a friend and another person who has become adopted family. So that night was magical to me for that moment.
It was a good night.
Didn't know me doing that. All of a sudden, a bunch of other people look at that and go, "Man, you're really good at this. We kind of want to start bringing you over for your voice." So that part was just one of those weird, like, what ifs. Now, gets to the question that you asked earlier. It was literally just 2, 3 months, I think about 2 months after we did the Homewood show, is when I got a call from my medical doctor, and they were like, "You're now ready to go for surgery. If you want it, we can do this for you." First thing they wanted to do, though, was install a defibrillator inside. And the defibrillator, for people who don't know, is this tiny little battery that they, in a little small incision, they put it in your right above your chest. Sometimes they'll try to put it like on your side now as well too. And what it does, if your heart stops, it literally shocks your heart back. So it's like a giant defibrillator paddle up against your chest. And what sucks about having a defibrillator though is if you go out and you want to exercise, you want to run, you want to go do other stuff, if you're not careful, you could actually shock yourself.
Oh my.
And there's certain sports you have to avoid. There's certain things you have to stay away from, like putting like headsets or anything like earbuds down by your chest. It can knock you back 10 feet. Like that shit's crazy. Go ahead, Rian.
My apologies. One of the guys that I used to work with at UPS had something similar with him, where he couldn't get near any of the disconnects. Like
Yes.
because he had to stand a certain way so that he was grounded to make sure that he didn't take a shot. Yeah, like as soon as you said that, I just had a flashback of someone that, he was very particular. He was like, I can touch this one, but I can't touch that one. Like he was very clear where he needed to go.
Like, thank God, I mean, I didn't have to have the surgery done, but like a cell phone, for example, just putting a cell phone right by your chest would literally, cause you to get shocked.
Yep, yep.
And when I mean shocked, I mean, you're not getting like a little buzz, like you get like shocked. So they first originally wanted me to go get a defibrillator installed. And I was like, okay, if I have to get one, so be it. What was a blessing was there is this wonderful heart surgeon named Dr. El Haj, and he's probably Indiana, probably Chicago's best medical heart doctor ever. And he brought me to the hospital a little couple hours before I had to go into surgery to talk stuff over. And the first thing he said to me was, "You don't need a defibrillator installed in your chest." He said, "What you need is get your valves repaired so your heart is actually getting the blood flow and pumping that it deserves." He said, "They go in for a defibrillator with you already having your valves not working right. The problem is, it doesn't matter if you have the defibrillator or not. 4 months, maybe to 6 months, you'll be dead."
That is
So,
an impressive thing to have to walk around your daily life carrying in your heart. No pun intended.
so he gave me his ultimatum, and it was, we go in, we do minor invasive surgery. God bless that. And he said, what we'll do is we'll go in and we're going to repair the valve that is regurgitating the blood so you get proper blood flow. And then we're going to work on the other valve. And he said, you're going to be out for about a week easily. But he's like, the first thing you need to do, though, is you need to start walking around as soon as possible. He's the reason why a lot of people, after they get done with any form of heart surgery, they end up getting into this whole idea of, no, I need bed rest, no, I need to lay down, no, and this and that. The problem is you don't get enough activity, not enough physical activity where your heart is now, okay, I'm back at this again, and starts pumping and it's getting that rhythm going. So that's the first thing he told me. He was like, after surgery, you're gonna feel like you've been chopped by 1,000 guys. He's like, it's gonna suck. But he's like, but after this, give yourself a day or so. I want to see you walking around that hospital. He's like, because you're going to thank me for this. Because once everything's good, you should be back on track. So that's why I did. Show you how either stupid or dedicated I am. It was literally 4.5 days that I had the surgery, and I was let by the doctor saying, all right, you're blessed to go home. Just be careful. Don't do anything to pull stitches out. Just be smart with it. I went and freaking ring announced for crash tested wrestling.
Well, that'll get the blood flowing.
Yeah. It's sore because I was thinking like everybody's gonna walk up and like hug me or something, like, oh God, like,
Oh boy, that was you
this
couldn't tell
bump,
it.
man.
You couldn't tell anyone. You or at least you didn't tell me, at least to my knowledge. You never told me.
Yeah, I didn't want anybody to freak out, you know. But I kept my wife was with me, so she kept an eye on me, and I kept an eye on myself too. If I started feeling weak or something was about to happen, I was like, yep, I'll go sit down in a chair and let someone else take over. But no, that's what I did. So that's I'm on a road recovery. We had the surgery done. I take this medication called Entresto. I want to tell this to anyone's listening to this podcast tonight. For the love of God, if there's anything you take from me, I hope this is one of the things that will help you. If you have any form of heart issues or there is something medically wrong with your ticker, please go to the doctor. Do not hesitate. Do not wait it out. It's not being a tough guy. Your family needs you. The world needs you. We all need you in this world. Show up, get yourself taken care of. If you're in case you have anything like heart failure, if you're still at an early enough stage, Entresto is the miracle drug. Entresto has helped me go from what is the heart injection fraction, what they call it. It went from a 29. I am now currently sitting at 55.
Wow. All of this happened to you in the span of just a few months.
Yeah.
Well, that'll keep you busy on top of the schedule that you kept anyway.
Now,
Go ahead.
I will say this though. Now, a lot of people are wondering about if I'm going to run shows again and whatnot. The reason I'm not running currently right now is I'm giving myself time to not deal with stress. Breon knows what I'm talking about. Being a promoter, being a booker. It's not,
No,
it's, no, he knows what, but you know what I mean, though. You've been in this business for over 20 some odd years, man. You know what I'm talking about,
okay, all right.
but the stress of that job alone could drop a normal man. You know, if you have a heart failure, you have medical issues, and you're still trying to run shows, let me tell you something, that takes a toll on you. And definitely when you're trying to run an event and you want to make sure, okay, is the building owners happy? Okay, good, they're happy. Fans are okay, good. Wrestlers are all paid up, taken care of. Okay, good. Insurance is there. Yeah, insurance is there. You're constantly just thinking like, what ifs? What if someone someone doesn't show up, or what if there's like some type of building violation or something? There's always something playing on a promoter's mind. You're constantly thinking this shit. So yeah, right now I'm taking a break away from stress. Will I come back to promoting? I do believe so. I don't see why it won't, but it will be on my call. It won't be on from the boys demanding it, or even the fans, as much as I love the fans, and I do love some of the boys too. But I don't run shows to benefit myself. I do it for the fans. But I think the fans would understand, hey, this guy almost died. Like, how about we give him some time to focus on himself for once and have fun? And the reason why I'm having so much fun right now, coming back to ring announcing and doing commentary. It's not just, oh yeah, well, I don't have to run the show, which is a nice feeling. When you don't have to be the boss for the night, just be one of the guys and just have fun.
There's nothing
But
wrong with wanting to be a worker bee for a while.
oh man, and I miss that. I really do. And I tell people all the time, like Jed, I gave him so much thanks for like, hey man, you kind of helped renewed my love for wrestling. Because there was that time when I was in the hospital. It was after the first night. I sat there and I had my phone next to me, and I'm thinking, man, my phone is going to be blowing up. There's going to be people calling me left and right, want to check on me and stuff. And here's the ugly truth, and the very sad truth. I only had 8 people the entire week I was in the hospital check up on me. Not even 10, just a handful. And I'm okay with that. At first, I got to be honest, I was like, damn wrestling business. But I stopped myself and said, you know what? That's the nature of the beast. A lot of times, the boys, if you don't have something for them, they don't care. And that's just how they are. And so as not my first rodeo as a promoter, not my first rodeo in the wrestling business. So I stopped myself and I used my Buddhist belief of it's okay because maybe not 100 people checked on you, but those 8 people that checked on you for the entire week, those are 8 human beings that you now know are quality people in your life. And that is far worth more than 1,000 people that don't care. So I'm very lucky for people like Davison Sarai, Aiden Reyes, Sean Phoenix, Michael and Johnny. Uh, you know, even you checked up on me, Steve. And I'm grateful for that. Referee Josh Patterson was one of the first people to check up on me. And so I had so many good people that really matters to me. And the people I understand too, some people may not know I was in a hospital. There's some people that was probably trying to give me room and space and not like, hey, he's in there, let's leave him be. That's why I'm not jaded by it. I'm actually perfectly chill and okay. But when I got out of the hospital before I was going to go do Jed's show, I did have it in my brain. I'm not going to hide it or try and deny it. There was a time where I was sitting there thinking to myself, like, okay, after Jed's show, I'm probably done with the wrestling business. And I thought like that last show I was going to do with Jed was going to be like farewell, sayonara, walk away. But a lot of things happened just a day after the hospital where I kind of had fun with it. And I said to myself, my wife was the one who kind of brought it to my attention. She said, go out there, don't worry about the boys and go out there and don't worry about trying to make yourself feel like $1 million. Have fun. Go out there and enjoy what you're doing. And if you don't enjoy it, then go home. You know, you don't owe it to anybody. You don't owe this business. You don't owe it to anyone in the business. You've done enough. If you want to go home, go home. You're earned your right. And I had that night when I went and did the show for Jed, I had fun. All the boys walked up to me. There was people talking to me, checking up on me and stuff. And we went out. We had a good show. We set up the freaking big show coming up, Destiny. Of course, love to talk about that sometime very soon with you guys, because I feel like July 22nd is coming up upon us. And
we might even
Stevie
talk a
boy,
little bit about that tonight there.
Stevie,
'Cause,
my boy, you have yourself a big old bar brawl on your hands with that
oh, come
Cameron
on.
Wayne.
After what I went through this past Sunday, dealing with the Don is going to be a walk in the freaking park. You are on quite the rocket ride when it comes to commentating and when it comes to ring announcing. And ring announcing, I kind of happened upon a little bit by accident and discovered that it is really fun to do. So I get your passion about it. What is your favorite? I mean, obviously you're there, you're kind of the MC for the evening, and it's kind of cool. You get a rapport with the audience. Why do you love ring announcing? Because not just everybody thinks they can do it until they have to do it.
That's the thing is everybody, and this is like one of my pet peeves about wrestling per se, is how people have this mindset about ring announcers. The one thing I do love about the boxing and MMA community is that they treat their ring announcers with such high regard. You never hear someone say, "Oh, they're disposable." UFC will never say Bruce Buffer is disposable. He is the voice of the UFC. When people hear Bruce Buffer do what Bruce Buffer does best, like same in boxing, Michael Buffer, his brother, anytime he does the whole like, "Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready," and he does the whole rumble thing.
Yeah, don't say it, or you're going to bring the law down. You'll come after all of us.
All the holes.
The thing is, I would never trademark him, but his brother is like, both the Buffer brothers are my heroes. I got different heroes in ring announcing for different reasons. But I enjoy it because I love talking to people. When I was a kid growing up, pro wrestling and The Price is Right was two things that was like always on TV in the South. When you're Southern, your grandma or somebody's going to either be watching 605 TBS time, or they got Bob Barker on your TV screen. You're watching Price is Right.
Don't forget to have your pet spayed and neutered.
Spayed and neutered, absolutely, baby. So I enjoy the game show vibe where you talk to the audience and you get to know them and interact with them and have fun. But I also love the way I do ring announcing. I don't try to go out there and try to do just like a regular pro wrestling ring announcer. I do more of a boxing vibe when I ring announce people. It's like, I guess I'll do like a presentation of it. It's like, "Ladies and gentlemen, he hails all the way from Chicago, Illinois. He weighs in at a slim, trim 275 pounds. He is known as Steve Two Belts Aaron."
Well, I love it, and I love my imaginary weight because that
we will. You keep working on that. You keep on working on those workouts, man. You're going to.
That hasn't happened since 8th grade, but that's neither here nor there.
You got that 275. I believe in you, Steve.
Working hard indeed.
But we're talking about people. I'm not trying to cut you up, but you're talking about when people think about ring announcing so easy. It's not. There's a presentation to what you're doing. There's a rhyme and reason why you do what you do as a ring announcer. It's like even like sometimes you see like some ring announcers, they try to like ring announce everybody the same, and I never like that. I always feel like, okay, non-title matches, while they're coming to the ring, you do the whole "ladies and gentlemen coming down the aisle." You do that, but when it comes to your title matches, that's when you want to give them that boxing presentation where it's like you get them both in the ring at the same time. If someone had the production values doing this, they dim the lights and you have that spotlight on the ring announcer. So when they really give that big fight presentation, all of a sudden it's like, damn, man, like this is going to be a fight. One thing that the Octagon and UFC does right with Bruce Buffer Bruce will never get the dim lights until it's the main event. When it's the main event, they'll dim the lights, and there's this big spotlight over Bruce. And Bruce will do that whole "it's now time," and everybody's like, "Yeah," and they're all riled up. And it's it's like I do like my main event too. Is ladies and gentlemen, it's main event time, and instantly they get them. Now they know it's like here it comes, and then the music plays, and the wrestlers come out. You don't even have to ring announce coming to the ring or anything. Anybody who knows that production value, let that music comes and let them both come out. And then you get that big introduction. You make them feel like $1 million, and that's what it's about. It's all about presentation. Good ring announcers have appearance down pat. You should always look your Sunday's finest. I know there's some people that get away with wearing the blue jeans and t-shirt. I don't know why. When I first broke into the wrestling business many years ago, the first thing that was said to me by Spike Moore was, "Do you have a nice suit?" "Yes." "Do you have a tie?" "Well, yeah." "Good. Bring that because you're our ring announcer for the night." And this is 17-year-old me, they're talking to. So it was ingrained in me at a young age, like you will look your Sunday's finest. And then when it comes to presentation,
That's important. That is an important lesson. And you're right.
well, I feel like if you're representing a wrestling company, you should do it the same way like you represent your job. If you were going to be sent by your employer, let's say a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, they want you to do a speech in front of a group of investors. Are they going to take the guy that has grease smudged all over his face or all over his jeans? No. They're going to send someone who looks their Sunday's finest, someone who speaks very well, and they have presentation. Ring announcing is the same thing. You're now the representative of the company. Your ring announcer is seen more by the fans than any wrestler is. Your ring announcer is the face of the company. And I preach this to a lot of promoters. It's like when I hear these shady promoters go like, "Well, I don't really pay my ring announcers." And I'm like, that's the guy you should be taking care of the most. If anything, outside of the wrestlers, is that your ring announcer is the face of your company. If they're entertaining and the fans like hearing them, the fans want to come back. They're your information segue. They're the ones who are going to tell the fans who, what, when, and where, and why. Next show, they'll help you sell your raffles, they'll help your concession stands. A good ring announcer will help wrestlers with their merch. And like Crash tested, anytime BEWO BOW brings his flyers or his 8x10s or shirts, I always make sure I walk up to BOW and it's like, "Hey, look at this. Oh yeah, hey fans, go over here and check this out." And I'm trying to bring people to different wrestlers, sell merch. Your job is a marketing guy. You're the one who sells the company to people. Come out. Check out pro wrestling Saturday nights. Get your tickets, get your hot dogs, bring the wife and kids and the babies on top of that. We're gonna have a good time. That's what we do.
It's you couldn't be more right. The first ring announcing gig that I ever had, I was doing it at Southland Championship Wrestling. That's the first time I ever got to do it. And the only reason I got to do it is I was on commentary that night and their ring announcer couldn't make it. So Hunter said, "Hey, can you help us out with this?" And I'm like, "Well, I've never done it before, but I've seen it done by some pretty good people." At that time, I had just come, I've come up with the Mr. Riccolos of the world, and he's
yeah,
good at what he does.
He's a true icon of Chicago wrestling.
Yeah. So I went out there and I ripped off Riccolo for the whole. Well, I mean, I didn't rip him off, but I tried to do things the way he would do them, and it got over so well that after that they wanted to have me back, and I remember what made them want him back because it was something that Hunter said he's never seen. He and Terry Allen remarked about this after the show was over. There was a moment in the show where something was supposed to happen and it didn't happen the way it was supposed to. And I saw what was happening, and having, been in stories and having done this before in commentary, certainly, I'm like, okay, so we can fix this by just simply saying this. So I interjected and said, "Well, it just so happens I happen to have President Terry Allen on speed dial. Let's call him and find out." So when I did that, people were just shocked. And after the show was over, Hunter's like, dude, what made you do that? You saved the bit. How did you think of that on the fly so fast? It's wrestling. Things are changing fast, but that's what got me to be the regular ring announcer. And then CSW saw me doing it. So when our ring announcer was not available, I would kind of pull double duty over there. So I kind of got some good practice at it. But you're right. You're the voice of the company because you're out there with those fans telling them what to get excited about and what not to get excited about. So I think that's a very, very good perspective. I think that's why Mr. Riccolo, and I will always love this picture. This was during the SCW POW war, and Riccolo and I had a little rivalry together, and I wasn't supposed to be at that show. I showed up late unannounced, and I invaded his ring, kind of what POW had been doing to SCW, and he didn't know I was coming. So I just got up in the ring, and he was ready to kick my ass. I'm telling you, if I hadn't have gotten out of Dodge, my ass might have been kicked by the man with the greatest hair since Kenny Rogers in the 80s.
But I showed a picture to my best friend Jerry Bishop in Alaska. Me and Jerry, another guy who was there for me through all this time. And it's like, I ever showed you Mr. Riccolo? And he was like, no. I was like, I kind of told him, I was like, oh, he's a Chicago legend, and he's been like, considered like the godfather ring announcer of ring announcers. And I sent him the picture, and he's like, one thing, this guy looks really like snazzy, man. Like he's well dressed. And he's like, that Kenny Rogers haircut, man. It's like that dude rocks that old school 70s gambler look, And I was just like, oh my God. Like Riccolo must have heard that so many times over the years.
I can't hear Kiss's I was made for loving you without Riccolo and his confetti cannons. It's still one of the greater gimmicks working in this business today. But boy, that was such a fun moment for us. And after the show was over, he came back and he gave me the biggest hug and said, man, I thought we made magic out there. And I'm like, that's sometimes how it happens. And it was great. It was great fun.
I've never had the chance to meet that guy. I would love to meet him one day.
That is you would love him, and he would absolutely love you. Riccolo loves educated people that understand this business and treat it right. We got to get you two together. We've got to have the union of the Bullard and the Riccolo. We got to bring it together and make that happen in some form.
I'd be honored to.
But ring announcing, everything you said is right, spot on. And now you're even kind of segueing back into commentary, and I know I've seen old pictures, when you were in the South doing your commentary, and I know you're back, and I know that was a passion of yours many years ago. How does it feel to be back in the? That's the graphic. I love this photo.
We'll talk about that too. We'll talk about that.
This because this is amazing.
So the commentary.
Go ahead and talk about your journey.
So the commentary lately was really unique and unexpected, to say the least. So one of the companies I actually do commentary for is called Ruthless Pro Wrestling. They are based out of Toledo, Ohio. They do shows in Chicago, Detroit, and New Jersey. And so I'm friends with the owner, but I never asked for bookings. I was never try to hit them up for anything. It was just one of those really strange kind of a twist of events where it's like, hey, our one commentator seemed like he's going to leave the company or he's going to take a hiatus. We don't have anybody currently available. Would you mind filling in? And they never heard me do commentary before. So I was like, let me send you my commentary track at Wrestle League and see what you think first before you even offer me the job. And instantly, the first thing the owner said was, I love this. Your commentary style is more of old school boxing, Southern style. You don't scream or holler. You don't try to do a million catchphrases. You tell the story of what's going on in the ring, and you get both competitors over. And he's like, I would like to see this try. So sure enough, we had a big show in Berwyn. Now this right here is such a cool feeling for me. I've never had the chance to actually perform in the Berwyn Eagles Club.
God, I love that building. So much history.
Man, it's the Corrigan Hall of United States wrestling. What the Corrigan Hall is to Japanese wrestling with the Tokyo Dome is exactly what the Berwyn Eagles Club is for United States wrestling scene, without a doubt. So we were the that weekend, us and a company called ICW No Holds Barred was the first deathmatch companies to actually put on a deathmatch show at the Berwyn Eagles Club ever. I say that as ever to do that. First time ever. That building has hosted wrestling for what, over 30 years or more. It's a pretty historical building for wrestling. I know that.
I've
But
never seen the death match live. I've never seen that. I've seen it on
oh
TV.
man, it's okay. So I know a lot of people have asked me like, you death matches. I remember the first time Davison heard I was going to commentate deathmatch wrestling. She was like, "That's so weird because you're the straight lace old school commentator, and that's like ultra violent and crazy." But I was like, "Yeah, but my love for storytelling, I know I can get this over, and I enjoyed it. Great group of people that are involved with it. Both companies are extremely professional. They actually made sure the Berwyn Eagles Club was clean so spotless that by the time the event was over with, Chuck, the guy who runs the Berwyn Eagles, great guy, invited them back for an event in October.
I might have to check that out because I probably should see it before I die myself.
Hey, you know what? If come out, I'll get you the dates and so forth. Our next event, I'll actually be traveling to Michigan for King of the Kill deathmatch tournament, August 12th.
You got it.
Maybe Michigan, yeah. We actually have right now currently announced Crazy King from DTU Mexico. We have Joel Bateman from Australia, and we also have No God Only Schlack, who's a huge star in the deathmatch scene for this tournament. And maybe Michigan is not too far from Detroit, so it's kind of cool. I have a sister that lives over in Port Huron area, so this is going to give me a chance to go do the show and then go over there and see her and spend time with her as well. It's been a long time, so yeah. So I went from just working for Crash Tested to now working for a promotion that has me traveling from Chicago, Detroit, coming soon. I know they're going to have some more dates. I know New Jersey's been in the talks. So it's crazy, man. Really is. Another company that I'm commentating for and I'm really proud of is actually Project X Wrestling out of Sudbury, Ontario, Canada. And that's actually ran by the McLaren family.
My buddy Magnum.
Yeah, love Magnum. He's
I love
him and
Magnum
his whole
so
family
good.
are like adopted family to me. So they have myself, Scene Neck, great commentator out of Georgia, also a really good hill manager, and my good friend and my commentating partner from Puerto Rico, Eric Rojas. Um, Me and Rojas, we've been commentating for a company called Spiritu Pro Wrestling out of Puerto Rico. So I got to do some of the commentary for over there, see the Puerto Rican wrestling scene, which is really cool. They got a very thriving scene that's building, especially with the younger talent that's coming up. But yeah, no, we're all doing shows in Canada this weekend. Actually, I'm going to Canada for the next Project X wrestling show. So I'll be in Ontario coming up on Saturday. For yep, the Great Canadian Bash. Yes, sir.
You've just got to give Rion Skills all the credit in the world for
And
having those
Rion's on top
timely
of his game
photos
every time.
come up at the right possible second. That's amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, we're next this Saturday coming up, the Great Canadian Bash. It's actually part of Canada Day, as Canadians would say. So yeah, it's cool, man, to be able to say, I get to travel all across the United States now, and now going to Canada to do shows, and
Have your passport ready.
yeah, and that's the thing too. Like I want to talk about that for a second with a lot of wrestlers. I was telling the guys in Chicago when I first started Chicagoland, I was like, each and every one of you should have a passport. And they're like, yeah, and I've heard this from a few guys. I'm not want to call them out, but there's a few guys that are 40 milers. And I have no fear of saying that to people because the people know what they are. There's some guys are 40 milers. And when you tell them, hey, there's a potential chance you could be seen like in another country, you should get a passport. And they say, I was waiting till the opportunity comes. One of the opportunities next week is going to take you almost 2 to 3 months to get a passport. Now you blew your opportunity.
It's crazy. for the longest time, I was doing things pretty locally. And then I got a chance to travel up to Wisconsin, to Unity, Wisconsin, to work with Frontline Pro and
Yeah.
their streaming service. And the drive is a killer, but I don't know if I'm just weird, or the sense of accomplishment driving all that way, getting there, having a great show and coming home. It was as tired as I was, there was something energizing about it, because the whole vibe at Frontline Pro is amazing. So I was glad to do it. But that's the first time I've ever really traveled any great distance. So it was a different world. I had people in the car, I was driving with some of the guys. So I really was living that story that so many people have told me in the past of, a couple of guys in the car heading out to a show. I never really
Yeah.
had it, and I got it. So it was a pretty good moment for me. What do we got here? We got a young man. Is that a young John Bullard at the
That
top
is,
there? A
that
clean
is,
cut, sleek John Bullard?
yeah, that's like 20 some odd years old with no common sense what's happening to him in the future.
But you were still appropriately dressed, which I think is the
Always, always.
most important thing in that to take away there.
Yeah, that was myself and a good friend of mine, Joe Roberts, aka Barry Cashin. Uh, he was a really fun hill manager. Kind of remind me a lot of Larry Sweeney. Remember the late sweet and sour Larry Sweeney who passed away? He was from Chicago area. Larry was tremendous hill manager and wrestler. Joe was a great commentator. We worked for a company called Southern Championship Wrestling. At that time, we were doing the whole format of SCW was unique because it was a Southern Wrestling studio show. And I do mean studio show where there was only one set of bleachers for all the fans to sit on. And we only filmed in like one section. That was it. And we would do, I remember when I first started with them, I would literally wake up, go have breakfast, take a shower, go get dressed, and then head out. And at 11 a.m., I arrived to the studio. From 11 a.m. to almost up to 11 p.m., I am still at the wrestling studio because we would do multiple tapings in one day. I remember one time we did 5 studio tapings in one day to get everything ready for TV because we were on a channel called WOBZ TV9. And we actually were the opening program before Ohio Valley Wrestling, OVW. So we were the opening promotion that opened it up for them. So we would do about 4 or 5 studio tapings, and then we would lead up our studio tapings to the big house shows. So we would go out there and do armories, we do convention centers, and so it was very much like they used to do back in Memphis, literally the whole setup. So here I was, early 20s, before that, young kid, 17, 18 years old, ring announcing, learning the ropes to be a wrestler in Florida. And then by the time I was like 21, I moved to Kentucky due to a job transfer after the hurricane kind of wrecked the whole state of Florida. So I was up there. Now I'll tell you a funny story how this all happened. I wasn't actually even looking at wrestling that much because it was like, all right, I'm kind of getting back on my feet, survived being homeless because the hurricanes destroyed everything we had. And I started working at this call center. And there was a guy by the name of Frank Hobbs that worked with me. And Frank was an old school wrestling fan, but I didn't know Frank was also an old school wrestler. So we started talking, and he's like, "Oh man, you know anything about this and this?" I was like, "Oh man, I grew up on Gordon Sully. I grew up on 6:05 Eastern time. That's the stuff I'm into." "Oh man, you ever think about wrestling?" And I told him because I didn't go around like, "Oh, I'm in the wrestling business." I kind of kayfabed it for a lot of people, and I was like, "Hey, Frank, yeah, I'm in the wrestling business. Let me show you photos of my stuff." And I said, "Man, I'll show him my photos." He's like, "Dude, you need to come down Saturday. I want to introduce you to this promoter." I was like, "Okay, cool." So we went, we hanged out. Sure enough, I remember this freaking just like it was yesterday. Went to this armory, wore a suit. It was like in August of all things. So it was like hot as Satan's ball sack walking that building. There's no AC. So I was like already drenched in sweat and walk up to the promoter. His name was Jamie Roberts. And Frank says, "Jamie, this is John. You should listen to him talk. He's got a great voice. He's been doing this for a long time. Da 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 da. And he kind of hyped me up. And so Jamie looked at me and he said, "Okay, well, let's hear it." So I broke into the whole, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Southern Championship Wrestling. I am your host, James Soley, and with me is Barry Cashin." And instantly he was like, "Okay, you got the job." He's like, that voice alone sold it. And for a long time, I worked as James Soley. So everybody knew me as that, Soley. So here's the funny thing is, when people go to Kentucky
Wait.
at
Here's
times,
the funny part.
here's the funny part.
Cheers
I
to you,
came,
John.
yes, to you, my friend. For many years, I never told people my legitimate legal name. So a lot of people in the wrestling scene in Kentucky, if you walked up to them and say John Bullard, a lot of them now knows who I am. But some people are like, "Huh?" And you go, "Solely." "Oh man, I know Solely. Yeah, how's he doing?" My wife cracks up about this because there's still people like she'll mention me and she like someone, they're like, "Who?" And she's like, "Oh, you might remember him as James Soley." And instantly they're like, "Oh man, my buddy, how's he doing? I haven't seen him in forever." My wife's just like, "How long do you kayfabe these people on who you was?" So the part of that that's kind of comical why I had to do it. For a long time, I actually worked for the Department of Homeland Security. So when you have
Oh,
government
you work for the what?
Homeland Security, yeah,
Man, this is turning
yeah,
into a full-scale reveal fest.
yeah. Well, hey, I told you like tonight I was going to kind of open up more to my life to some people. So, but when you work for something like Homeland, you kind of have to keep your life a little separate from what you're doing. And so it was one of those things where I didn't want to tell people I work for Homeland because, like, it was it's a wrestling business. Let's be honest, most guys are already paranoid if they have a cop around them, let alone a fucking government official. You know, so I was like, yeah, I was like, my name is James Soley, and I had like the whole like identification thing, the whole like, yeah, I lived the gimmick. So for years, people didn't know it. My wrestling dad, Bobby Blade. I remember the day on Facebook I changed my name from James Soley to John Bullard, and I got a message from him like almost an hour later, and he was like, "Who the hell is John Bullard, and how the hell are you on my Facebook page?" I'm like, "It's Solely, buddy," and he was like, "Hold up, was Bullard your real name all along?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Yes, that was my real name all along," and he was like, "You never told me this," and I was like, "You never asked." It's like you would ask someone, "Is that your legal name or not?" No, you know. Oh man. Yeah, so many people that I still play games with that on onto that with the state of Kentucky. It's like, yeah,
Living
sold
the
me. Oh,
gimmick,
yeah.
living the
Uh,
gimmick.
oh, brother, yeah, for a long time. That picture, UAC, I'm looking forward to that. The arm wrestling challenge.
That's
My
on
good
me.
friend
My
Eric.
apologies. My apologies. I'm coming back. I'm coming back
Oh
to
no. Oh,
it.
you're good. You're good.
Okay,
No.
and boom.
There we go. Yeah, I'm also getting to commentate and announce a really awesome arm wrestling company that my friend Eric is doing such an awesome job with. So, yeah, I'm excited. One of my goals too, Steve, what I've been doing, uh, outside of just ring announcing like pro wrestling and kickboxing and a few other stuff, I'm going out of my way to like I want to do arm wrestling. I want to do axe throwing. I want to like let me be the guy who voices everything that's going on. Like if you have a pie eating contest, by God, I want to announce who's
Oh,
doing
I
this whole
wouldn't
pie
mind
eating
doing one of those. That'd
contest.
be pretty cool.
Yeah, like I want to be the voice of whatever's going on in the area. And so I got hit up by Eric and he's like, "Hey, bud, do you want to do arm wrestling?" I was like, "Hell yes. Let's do arm wrestling. That's awesome." So I got that going on. Also working with a group of kids that I think are doing a wonderful job called Fight Flex. Uh, Fight Flex is like the best way I can explain it is there's this movement in mixed martial arts called gloves up, guns down. And what they do is they find kids and adults in the urban neighborhoods and also some rural areas too that, let's be honest, there's a lot of gun violence. There's a lot of things that is killing a lot of people and it's not good. So what this wonderful group is doing they're helping people settle their beefs by fighting in the ring instead of fighting each other on the streets or pulling a gun on each other. And when it's done, you shake hands afterwards, you call it a truce, and you go your way, they go their way, call what it is. And they're also helping a lot of really good fighters that haven't had the chance to go to a professional gym be seen by fight camps and be seen by up and coming dojos and MMA groups. So we're taking people from off the streets and giving them the chance to follow their dreams, and it's an amazing thing. BK Gifford is doing an amazing job with that company, and it all started. He's a kid I would love to see have on the Power Hour because I call him a kid. He's 22, but to me that's a kid. I'm about to be 40, so but he lost a good friend to gun tragedy. So he started this entire group based off the loss of a friend and trying to prevent other young people from not losing their lives. So July 15th actually will be announcing for their big show coming up. That's got like 22 fights scheduled that night. So
Oh, the
I will
car.
be worn the hell out afterwards. That's
You'll
for
feel that
sure.
boy.
Yeah, man.
We just did a 4-hour show in Mantino on Saturday. And when it was over, I had to sit down for like 20 minutes and catch my wind because
Yeah.
I was just gassed. But those long shows, boy, that'll test your endurance. People think we don't work, but test the strength right there.
I tell people all the time when they think commentators or ring announcers don't work, like, okay, if I put you in front of the microphone and you have to call the action right in front of you, and you have to know everything you're talking about, you have to understand what the moves are, you have to know their history, you have to know about this and that, and you have to get them over and not yourself over.
Right.
So many people would botch that, man. There's not a whole lot of, people, you talk about there wasn't like a whole lot of good ring announcers. I'll say this, there's not a whole lot of good freaking commentators in wrestling either. You either get someone who's really good at it, or you get someone who will like, okay, I want to tell fart jokes and mock people and make fun of the business and is trying to get themselves over instead of getting the talent over. And I've seen more of that in the last 10 years than I've actually seen really good commentators, which would be a good segue into talking about the League of Extraordinary Announcers.
That is something that just is just such a great idea, a kind of a community of professional commentators, having like a one-stop shop. If you need one, call the league. John Bullard,
Yeah.
tell us about the league.
So the League of Extraordinary Commentators and Announcers, that group was actually started by kind of a mistake, but I felt like it was a blessing in disguise. So I was supposed to do an event for high octane kickboxing. And unfortunately, I couldn't make that event because medical illness. And I went and I looked around and I contacted all my buddies from that part of Indiana because it's southern Indiana where they were doing their event at. And I told all my guys, like, hey, I'm looking for a really good ring announcer for that show to fill in my spot that would be willing to do it. Sure enough, all of a sudden there's this wonderful girl named Ashley. They were like, hey, Ash will come up and she'll kill it. I was like, awesome. Talk to Ashley. Ashley, John Bullard, nice to meet you. I need you to fill in for me as a ring announcer for this huge fight card. They'll pay you really good money. They'll take good care of you. Just can you make the date? Oh yeah, absolutely. She was so professional too. So proud of her. Ashley's this phenomenal ring announcer, and she went out and she killed it. And instantly it dawned on me, I just gave a service to another company, finding them another ring announcer. Wow. And started working on some other stuff. And all of a sudden, I've become friends with a lot of other commentators like yourself, Steve, but also uh, we got Michael Allen, who's starting to get the whole thrive of being a ring announcer, but also he's getting to the point now where I feel like he's a good commentator. He
He's
just
really
needs that platform. Michael Allen is Jeremy Borash 2.0. Like you remember Jeremy Borash from TNA? That's Michael Allen in the flesh, man. Like he gets it. Huge fan of him. My good friend Aaron Rose, the voice of Kentucky wrestling, the voice of UK hockey, He was the voice of the Lexington Legends baseball team. He called the NCAA hockey tournament in Vegas. So like having Aaron Rose on board doing this with us, and there's so many others. We're actually going to build a website. So how this works is for promotions out there that run shows, and there's a lot of independent wrestling promotions that runs events, but they don't have commentary. Let's be honest, there's a lot of footage, hard cam footage that you'll see, and no one's out there like doing commentary. There's no one out there like explaining to the fans what they're watching at home. You watch a lot of YouTube videos, same thing. There's no commentary team. So what we do is I work with commentators from every region. We have guys like us in the Midwest, Steve. We have our good friends out in Texas, Oklahoma area. We have guys on the West Coast. We have folks in Florida, New York, on up. We even have one of my dear friends, Seanric Hu from Singapore, who's going to be working with us on commentary and ring announcing. And we also have commentators in Germany, Simi the Crow, and others. So what we offer to every wrestling promotion is, let's say you can't bring us in to do the show live. That's okay. When you record the show, you can send that to us, and we can actually provide audio commentary over your event and explaining what the fans are watching before you send that out to the live media, the live press.
I've done that before, doing voiceover commentary after the fact.
Absolutely.
We did it. We did it the first Chicagoland show.
Absolutely. So,
and I don't think it suffered as much as I thought it might. I thought it still sounded pretty organic and pretty live.
Yeah. Especially if you've never seen the show before and then you do it like watching it for the first time, it definitely gives that live feeling because you're like, okay, I don't know what's going on. So now seeing this, now I get excited,
Right.
But we got like so many talented people that are working with us on this project. And, it's one of the things I want to offer this to every promoter out there. We're willing to work with you. It's not going to like go out there and kill your budget. We're not trying to like bleed anyone dry doing this. It's a fair price for what we ask for because it's our time, but you'll get a professional quality. You're going to get announcers that will take your product seriously. We will do our absolute best to make sure that every match is treated like it's a main event of WrestleMania. We'll make sure that every wrestler name is pronounced correctly.
Yep.
We'll make sure to get the event over for you. And to me, I feel like that is so important because there's so many people. I'm going to say this again, like sound like probably like a broken record, but there's so many people that will go out and they won't put the company over. Or let's be honest, there's some people that feels kind of jaded towards certain people in wrestling. So let's say that person is on the same show as the other guy. All of a sudden now that person's taking pot shots at him at commentary. Well, with us, you'll never get that because we don't care who this person is. Our job is to be professional and get the product over with the crowd. But guys like yourself, Steve, James Southard, Sean Raku, Simi the Crow, Walker Stewart, who is the velvet voice and the voice of Reality of Wrestling, ran by one and only Booker T, is also a part of our team as well.
I'm looking forward to working with that guy at once when the time comes.
Man, he is, dude. I wish I was as good as him. I'll say that he is good at his job.
Yeah.
Chris Darr, my commentating partner for Ruthless Pro Wrestling, aka P-Pod, another guy. If you ever had the chance to put him on the show, you'll be entertained by him. You and him have a lot in common. He's a radio guy. You're a radio guy. You both love wrestling. So, yeah, it's that camaraderie that we have. But yeah, this is a great thing that's starting up. We've already latched on to a couple of companies that's working with us now. We do Project X Wrestling. Outside of me going to Canada live, we'll do studio recordings for them in case if I can't make a date or another person can as well. And we're going to be working with another couple of groups here in the United States and also in Europe. So it's
get those passports ready. You never know when the league is going to show up on your doorstep.
But also what makes us different too is we're not just doing pro wrestling. We're also doing boxing, kickboxing, MMA. We're also, because of Eric Rojas and also uh, Aaron Rose, where both of them were professional sports announcers doing baseball and hockey and other things. We're also offering up our services to minor league teams that are needing a PA announcer or even a commentary team for those live games. So we're opening up our spectrum to not just the wrestling business; it's sports in general.
That is, I'm just very happy to be in this group. I was looking at all of their profiles because you sent out who's in it, and going through some of their stuff and looking at their work. They're all just so good at what they do. So I think this is a service that some places that don't think they can have it may actually have a chance to have it, and it might be more cost effective than they think, and it'll make their product look and sound maybe just a little bit better. And who knows? You put something on IWTV that people like, could change the game for them. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because one of the first things when you notice about pro wrestling, outside of the wrestlers, is the commentary. You really think about that. When you tune into Monday Night Raw back in the glory days of Monday Night Raw, it's good old JR and the King. Like you felt comfortable hearing their voices. For me, it was Gordon Soley, as a young kid, Lance Russell in Memphis, Joey Styles in ECW. Once you become so accustomed to that voice, you're in to see something really good, and you're going to be educated about the product that you're watching. And so, to me, I look at commentary with a serious approach. That's the reason why when we did CCW, I wanted you guys to be the best at what you did, because when fans tune in on Amazon Prime, on Power 4 TV, any of those other networks we were on, it was the purpose of the wrestling is great, the commentary is just as good. So it's important.
Yeah, you think back to all those great commentary teams. I was certainly influenced by Gorilla Monsoon and Jesse Ventura. Vince
But
McMahon
yeah,
was a great
absolutely.
commentator when he did it. Those are who I grew up with. And then you played forward. I love Shivani and Bischoff when they did their thing together. I thought they were a great team with Mike Tenay, the professor. And
Mike
then
today
Jim
is so
Ross
good.
and Jerry Lawler, and it just keeps going and going and going. So it's really, good commentary provides memories because, I mean, the Undertaker Mick Foley spot where he throws him off the Hell in the Cell would be timeless even if there was no commentary. But Lawler and Ross on that call cemented that. You knew the way they popped for that thing, that something unimaginable had just happened, and it held the test of time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, definitely they didn't tell Jim Ross what was going to happen. Mick had thrown off that cage was not really planned originally.
Right.
So when he got thrown down, you literally hear the fear in Jim Ross's voice going like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah.
Like, is he alive? Is he actually? We don't care about the match is over with. Is he alive? Like, oh my god, this guy's got a family. He's broken in half. It's, you know, when he screamed out, "My God!" Like you felt like fear in that man's voice because it was like, oh my god, like was that was that even planned? Like what the hell happened? Like here's Mick, there goes Mick, and he's flung off the cage, and it's wild.
That's kind of what you're paying for with the league. You're paying for the right reaction at the right time.
Yeah, absolutely,
I mean,
absolutely.
now let's get into Chicagoland Championship Wrestling.
Okay.
You're taking a hiatus for a while yet, and you're living another part of your dream. And I know you said you're going to go back to it when you're ready, and who could blame you? But do you understand how good that was for those few shows that we did? Do you sit back and go, man, that was just extraordinary?
Definitely the anniversary show. I felt that the most. There was two shows that really hit me in the feels. The very first show, just because the atmosphere, what it was for Chris, it was for memory of Chris, but how the whole night was magical, and how those fans were so alive. Like I will say this, I don't care to anybody. I don't think there was not a hotter crowd that night anywhere in the United States like they were in that building. Because they were loud from the first match to the last, and they did not stop. Like they were rowdy, loud. They cheer for the babies, they boo the villains. They were just amazing crowd. The other one, the anniversary show, I felt like just so many great matches. The Please Come Back chants that La Estrella and Manny Cortez had was a magical moment. I felt like Yuya Uemura versus Paragon was a classic. Logan versus Dillinger, instantly made Dillinger over with our audience in one night. There's so many good memories with that, and I love it, and CCW will always forever be my baby, and something I protect and I hold dearly to my heart. When the time is right, I'll come back with it. I had a fan literally message me about an hour and a half ago, was asking me like, "When are you coming back?" And it's like, it's great when you have fans that are asking that question. They're they want to see it. They're excited for it. I'm excited for it. But like I tell everyone too, I'm also taking time for myself to take care of my health and spend time with my family on top of some of the stuff I'm doing. I also want to kind of address this as well too. If there's a promoter out there and they've been hesitant about booking me because they're thinking, because I'm a promoter, I'm going to come to your show and take talent, or I'm out there to scout your guys. Don't be afraid of that. Don't no. I already have enough people as it is on my roster. I already have a phone book full of names I can call any day in case someone can't make a show. I don't need it to go take a million other guys from anybody. I don't want to copy another promotion by having the same talent you see 20 minutes down the road. That's not what my goal is. When I come to work for another promotion, it's my job to help that promotion grow, have a professional feel, and that their fans have a good experience. That's why I do what I do. It's not for me to go out and scout talent. It's not me to go out there and try to scout the building out because I already got my own buildings. I'm not worried about that. you know. But I have a feeling since I'm going to come back to ring announcing, I feel like there's people in Chicago that wants to use me, but I feel like there's a part of them are also hesitant, thinking, what if you like someone on our show? Next thing you know, we'll lose them. Don't be worried about that. That's not how I work. You know, I give my word on that to anybody.
Certainly not a poacher. That is
No,
I can
total
confirm
opposite.
that vehemently. Since Red is not here, I'm going to try to give you some roses because I feel like you deserve them. I met you at IPW in a tiny room in Dalton, Illinois.
I miss that building.
That was
I don't care what anybody says about that place. Honestly, I have felt so much compassion and so much joy being around wrestling. If it wasn't for those days and the guy sitting next to you is a big reason for that. Rion, I will always give my flowers to him for that because it opened up the door not only to have a friend in him, but it also opened up the door to have friendship with a lot of those guys that came to work for me later on. And yeah, man. Uh, Sorry for cutting you off. This I want to say
no,
it from the
it's
heart.
great. I mean,
Just
the tradition of IPW from day one, right up through right now, is just becoming amazing to me. And it's the locker room that first night when I was there, uh, drinking Sean Danger's urine, from that first night, the locker room, you could tell that there was just
yeah,
something special. And we've lost some of them. I mean, Jake was there that night, and
yeah, man.
it's some are gone, many are still there. So it's inspiring to still have IPW doing great things because it's a great place to work. But back to
Agree.
you and back to these roses. When I met you there, I never expected that I would be working for you at your own promotion a few years later. I was not really doing a whole lot of in the business of wrestling at that time. I was working at CSW, doing their general manager and helping Kenton and Stan Payne with commentary every now and again. I had kind of stopped doing commentary. And then when you started CCW, you brought me in as your commentator right away, even though I had a long period that I hadn't done it. And working at CCW, that very first show was kind of my return to the chair with the microphone. And it felt so good to be back. I hadn't realized how much I had missed it. Now, all these years later, I'm doing that more and more for places. I'm basically lead commentator at CSW now, on IWTV. I'm co-commentator at Frontline Pro on the Premier streaming network. So because you laid the foundation with what you did at Amazon Prime, I'm now on streaming services that are getting out across the world, which
Yes.
blows my mind every time I think about it. And I'm doing commentary here, there, and everywhere, at least a little bit. And I don't think I'd be doing it if I hadn't gotten back with you and had that show that a lot of people saw on Amazon Prime. I think, you opened doors for me, and I don't know if I've ever properly thanked you for it, because I think my wrestling career at that time was really winding down. I had just gone through the GPW debacle, and I was pretty much only doing CSW because, I had Black Pariah written all over me due to association. And you gave me some opportunity, and I'll always be grateful for that. But watching you do what you do, and watching you interact with all the people you interact with, and watching the people you brought in, from Davis and Sarai to all the luchadors and the people from Japan, and watching how graciously you handled them, from the way you did the first show to the second show, to your involvement with Wrestle League and building the community from Louisiana and Texas across the pond and down to Mexico and up to Canada, and watching you network and build a community where people could travel safely and do amazing things. I think it's a testament to your legacy of being a man that has broken through the adversarial relationship that many promotions have, and instead of having, that kind of rivalry, you've installed kind of a cooperative effort. And I really feel that is something that if more people did it, and more people, said, hey, let's work together, as opposed to let's not work together, I think, the business would be a lot better off for it. It would certainly be a lot more interesting, and you'd get a lot more joy. Sometimes the animosity and the adversarial relationships hurt people, and you see it, in social media rants all the damn time.
Oh yeah, all the time.
It's the way you deal with people, and the way you earn their respect, and the way you earn friendships just across the board. The way C-Red talks about you, the way Paragon talks about you, the way Chris Logan talks about you. You're one of the few people in this business that people are in agreement is a good man. And if that's your legacy, John Bullard, then you have achieved everything you ever wanted to, because the moniker good man doesn't exist very much. And that's amazing.
Damn, Steve. That's probably one of the kindest things anybody's ever said to me. So thank you tremendously for that.
Thank you for revitalizing my life and my career and my enjoyment of this business, because I was 1 foot out the door when we met, and here we are. I'm all over the place doing some of the most creative and amazing things that I never thought I would ever be able to do in this business. So a lot to you, as much as I owe to this man sitting to my you're my right at this point, right?
Focus.
I'm focusing. Now, you've been quiet because you've been doing all the graphics. What would you like to talk to Mr. Bullard about?
I have nothing because I've been doing all the photos.
You have been, but you got to have some. Maybe you have a question. Maybe you have a comment.
I
I mean,
don't
it's been
think-
talking about a lot of things.
Bullard is great. What more needs to be said?
That's fair.
Mm.
There's a lot of stuff that he's already got out there that I've already shown on the photos
Yes.
for anyone that needs to see it. Like I don't know.
By the
what
way,
I
tomorrow.
already covered it. You've covered everything. Like I don't know what you want me to say.
Hi, John. How you doing?
I think-
Oh yeah, that's right. We did do that
I
already.
know
Okay,
you wanted this whole thing, but focus on this right here.
we'll focus on this right here.
You were talking about like the quality, building relationships with promotions. And so many years ago, when I was working in Kentucky, there was so many promotions that were at each other's throat. If you came from the southern side of the state, most of the central and northern side workers would look down upon you. If you would, I remember one time, I can talk about it now because both those companies are now out of business. I remember I used to wrestle every Sunday night for a company in Georgetown, Kentucky called UWF. And UWF used to run every Sunday, and they had a problem with a company in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky called Wildcat Championship Wrestling. Now, Wildcat Championship Wrestling, I believe, was probably about an hour and a half, 2 hours away from Georgetown, and they would run every Saturday. So, yeah, Saturday and Sunday. They don't even collide with each other's shows. And I remember the booker at the time for UWF told all of us, you can't work for them if you work for us. And I kind of stepped back and I was like, hold up. They're 2 hours away from you, so they're not in your territory. And they're on a Saturday night where you run on a Sunday, so they're not even colliding with your bookings. And you're telling all the boys, if you work for them, don't come here. Okay, are you going to pay me what they're promising to pay me? Because if that's the case, then yeah, I'll work for you if you pay me what they're paying and my pay on top. Sure. I never liked that. I've never understood why promoters will tell a talent you can't work for them if you work for me. Only time I can see that being done on purpose for a good reason is if that promoter is really shady or they're notorious person for burning the boys on pay, or they're just Ian Rottens of the world. To be honest, I mean, let's just call it what it is, being an Ian Rotten, But that's the only time I can see that being like, okay, hey, don't work for them because this person's going to screw you over. Like, work for me, don't deal with that. I can understand that. But there's so many promoters would do that shit. When I started up CCW, my whole thing was let's build these relationships and these roads for talents, but also on top of it, if this promoter is so far away from me, he never has to worry about me messing with his shows and vice versa with me with them. What it is, I literally like, let's use the McLarens in Canada. You know, hey, I'll talk to Magnum's father about business all the time. Hey, I got a group of guys want to come up to Canada. They're really good. They all have passports. They're all professional. They want to show up and wrestle for the Great Canadian Bash, for example. I send them up there. Who do you got to send to me? Sure. Oh yeah, I'll tell you what. We'll do this. You send me 4 of these guys. I'll send 4 of my guys down there. I do the same. I've done this with a bunch of people already. And when we start back up, I already know with Project X, but also my friends in Calgary with Can-Am has already told me the same thing. They're like, anytime you want to come up with 4 or 5 guys in a carload, you want to come to Calgary, you let us know. We'll have y'all booked and
Canada, so I'm all in.
So like it builds that relationship up. Dragon Gate.
It's amazing.
In Japan, Dragon Gate straight up. Hey, we got La Estrella. He's coming to the United States. Do you mind booking him? It wasn't just a booking. It turned into pretty much he stayed with me for 3 to 4 months at a time. So we were wake up together, we have breakfast together, we go to the gym and work out, we go watch anime or TV shows, whatever. And, he would ask me questions about American culture. I would ask them about Japanese culture. We learned from each other. It was not just a wrestling experience, but it was a cultural experience. And kind of doing like the young boy thing where promotions in Japan used to send their young boys out to other promoters. And they used to do this all the time in Calgary with Stu Hart. Stu, we have this young Japanese kid. He wants to come learn. Well, you give him a year to stay with you, train him, have him work all these shows for you, and do that. And I got that privilege with Dragon Gate, and the message I got back from the promoter was, yeah, Paul Estrella gave you such rave reviews how you and your family took great care of him. And, you made his time in America very joyful. And all of your wrestlers that he met, he liked being around them and he had fun. Thank you. And the first thing they said to me, and I'll never forget this, was, "We won't forget this, and we will be in touch with future plans." So once you open up a door and you take care of one of their guys, they'll never forget that. That's the thing I tell a lot of American promoters about Japanese talent, and same with the Mexican wrestlers too. You take care of those guys, they'll never forget you being good to them, because they're a foreigner in another country where someone could take advantage of them if they wanted to, and they would have no way of stopping it. But you didn't do that to them, and you took care of them. You treated them right, and you treated them with respect, and that goes a long, long way for someone from another country, because that they'll never forget that. The same thing. Reason why I learned that from Terry Funk used to talk about how Giant Baba from All Japan, when Giant Baba was a young boy from JWA, he was sent to Amarillo, Texas to stay with Dory Sr. And so Dory Sr. took great care of Baba and treated him with respect and made sure no one didn't give him a hard time for being Japanese. And this is way back in the 1960s. So, the animosities toward Japanese people were still there from World War II. But Baba never forgot how good the Funks were to him, being in their country, being in their state of Texas, being in America, and they made sure he felt just at home. So when he became the big boss of All Japan, one of the first thing he did, shot off the jobs over to Dory and Terry. Come work for me for the rest of your lives. I'll pay you great money. You're taken care of. And that's the thing I tell a lot of guys about Japanese wrestlers. Those young boys, when you see them at a very young age, be good to them. Because one day, that's the guy running the ship. That's the guy who's going to be the next big star. I remember in Florida when Okada from New Japan was making his first U.S. appearances back when he was wearing these baggy pants. And I remember everybody was saying, like, yeah, supposedly he's supposed to be this next big star in New Japan. I don't see it. Now he's the freaking rainmaker and the biggest draw in the world, man. But Okada never forgot the Americans who were good to him. And anytime some of those guys got jobs in New Japan now, a lot of it's from him, from Gedo Jaido. It's this common courtesy. I'm sorry if I sound like I'm rambling about world cultural stuff, but it's an important thing to teach guys, is that when so many guys want to go wrestle in Japan, and they're thinking, oh, I'm an independent wrestler from Chicago. They'll fly me over. It doesn't work that way. But once you build a good friendship relationship with those guys, and they see how you treated them in your own country, a lot of times they want to bring you over there to give you the same receipt back for your hospitality. So, yeah, these things to remember.
So I would be remiss before we conclude our things today. The next time I will see you live and in person, to my knowledge, unless you surprise me at some point, will be at Crash Tested Wrestling late in the month of July. What can you tell us from your perspective? What are you anxious to see in this card? I mean, is it the big triple threat match? Mercer, James, Marche, Rocket, all in one match for all the marbles? Is it Rhino coming out and being able to spend some time with Rhino as he's the special guest, as he signs autographs and does things? I mean, that's a huge deal. So there's a lot happening at this Destiny show. Renee Van Peebles and Vega are renew. This is the final time they're going to fight, from what I understand. It's a kind of a winner go home scenario. So there's a lot going on. Mike Strong and Jared Estrada. I'm not familiar with Jared Estrada, but I am familiar with Mike Strong. So there's a lot happening at this Destiny show. Jed and company are really, really amping this up. And, I have stated many times that Destiny is something dear to me because I was at the first one and I've been to all of them. So this is my 5th Destiny. And the history and those who came before is so important to me. What does this mean to you?
I mean, Destiny is like the Starcade of Crash Tested Wrestling. It's their WrestleMania. I'm not gonna lie, nervous because I know how much this means to Jed, how much this means to CTW and the CTW fans. Uh, to be able to be part of this and to ring announce it alone is such a privilege that I'm looking forward to. There's a couple of matches that I'm every match is really good for this show. The triple threat for the heavyweight title, Marche, you got a guy who has literally been an icon of Chicago wrestling, one of the first few guys from the modern generation that left Chicago and traveled out for the world to see. He's the first one, let's be honest. Even before people knew about CM Punk, you know, the Soul Touches, were going out and doing Shakara, they're going IWA, and they're wrestling everywhere, But anyway, Marche Rocket. Then you have Cody James, who, since I've seen him for the first time, very impressive. And I can see why the NWA is very high and have a lot of uh, probably serious plans for Mr. James. And I can see why he has become a force to reckon with in the Chicago wrestling scene. Then we have Miles Mercer, who I have always said was, and this is not a knock on Miles, but he's one of those guys that I wish he would took the wrestling business ultra serious because he's so talented. That guy has more talent in his pinky finger than most people have their entire body. And I know he's been a fighting champion. I know he's defended. He's got like 6 belts. He's like Ultimo Dragon when you see him like open up his gear bag of all those belts he carries around. He's just one of those guys that I wish would get out, travel, see the world. He's too good to be stuck in just the Chicago wrestling scene. But that's just my God honest take on watching God-given talent. Rion knows this because I said to Miles the first time I ever got in the ring of Miles. I said, dude, you're so talented. Like, why are you not like going out to other places and larger companies? Like excuse my French. He's too fucking good to just be stuck in one little place. Like he's too good for that. He's one of those guys that should be out there seeing the world. And I hope if he hears this, he doesn't get upset with me because he knows I love him. But that's like I want to put a fire under his ass and be like, go out there, man. If I'm traveling and I'm just commentating and talking to microphone, my God, people would pay to see him wrestle.
There's no doubt.
Just same with Marche, the same thing with Cody James. All those guys are so good. This is a hell of a main event for Destiny. I mean, you got 3 guys in this ring that are absolute amazing talents that are main eventers anywhere they go. And that's your main event. Then on top of that, we have what seems like a crazy triple threat tag team match. And you have the Plague reunited. Whoever thought we would ever see Ace and Bow teaming up? Definitely after that last man standing match that they had and all that other crazy stuff they were doing to each other. But then you got High Society. You got Eric Schultz. You have Chris Miller. And then you have the wild card. Here you got Still with the ARC. But who's the tag partner? Miles is wrestling. Renee's wrestling. C-Red has literally told him to go screw themselves. Like Red is very much, disgusted with the creation of the ARC at this point, it seems like. He's very, very tired of how Miles and Renee and, of course, Mr. Still has gone on and conducted their business. But who's going to be the mystery partner? That right there is the question.
Could be
Who
anybody.
is the mystery man for that night?
We never
It seems
know.
like
Yeah,
it looks
truly,
like
how
on
many
July.
air members?
Yeah, I know. That's the scary part. Like they can go and call someone from the past, or think about this: they may even pull wool over someone else's eyes. Hey, instead of calling someone from the past, how about we bring in someone who's never came from the ARC, but someone that we want to throw like a little gift receipt to them, like, hey, why don't you come join us and get a new blood in there? This that alone makes it so unpredictable of who it could be.
Anything can happen at Crash Tested Wrestling. And Miles Mercer, the king of the pre-show at Destiny 1 to the
No,
main
he's the king of the
event
show.
at Destiny 5. It's like with Destiny, Mercer has grown with Crash Tested Wrestling. So I think that's an amazing storyline. I can't
I
wait.
I think the Chasing Destiny Championship match, undeniable Nick Diamond, another young man that I feel like has a bright future ahead of him. Love him or hate him, I see so much potential with that young guy. Another person I have really grown to like, and he only lives like 2 streets down from me. I don't know why we haven't hanged out yet, but we need to. Jay Thunder is another guy that I really took a liking to. Jay is a extremely agile big guy
Yes.
that just man, when I first saw him, I'm like, oh, okay, he's just going to be like the typical brawler. No, he's an athlete all the way through. And he's really good. This is the match that I'm looking forward to as well because Nick Diamond has done his absolute best to hold on to that championship belt. But I feel like right now, Jay Thunder is the biggest threat that has ever came across for that Chasing Destiny title.
It's going to be a hell of a show. John Bullard is going to be ring announcing. I'm excited because you get to introduce me in my little squabble with Cameron. So I will. That might even be my ringtone when all is said and done. John Bullard announcing me into a match. I can't wait to hear it on the playback. I can't wait to be behind the curtain listening to it. But Crash Test Wrestling Destiny, it's a very important show. It's important professionally, it's important personally, and the tradition of Destiny, you can feel that this event is big, and
Absolutely.
Jen deserves a lot of congratulations for the posters look great. You feel like this is going to be a special show in Maryville later in July, so we're all looking forward to it.
Yeah, same man. This is probably one of the most exciting times in my life to have the chance to be part of Destiny. I remember when I first moved up to the Chicagoland area, how many wrestlers talked about Crash Tested, and it was always about Destiny. Every one of them was one of the first things comes out of like I remember the first time I ever met Tom Heisman, and Tom talked about Crash Tested. Of course, Tom despised the one of the guys who was used to be owners, but one of the first things he
You don't
really
say.
yeah. Yes. if if you want to know how Tom feels, just ask. You don't have to ask him; he'll let you know.
You'll
But
let you.
yeah. Well, the first thing though he talked about was how much Destiny was like a big deal, and how that was like to a lot of the guys like their Starcade. So Crash Tested Wrestling, in my opinion, is on the rise. It's starting to gain back its audience. It's doing it piece by piece, pace by pace. But I do feel like there's a lot of potential for Crash Tested Wrestling. There's a lot of good talent that's probably going to be making its way pretty soon to Crash Tested that has never been there before. So who knows? Mr. Jed Williamson has probably has a lot of cards up his sleeve, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Jed does.
John, we can't thank you enough for taking time out tonight to be so transparent and to talk about all the things you've gone through, both good and bad. We always love having you on the show, and it's a genuine thrill to get a chance to talk to you under these circumstances.
It's always my honor to spend any time with you and Rion and Uncle Red and him and Rachel. I kind of miss talking to her. I haven't seen her in a good while, but I guess if I have to leave off with anything, I want this to be known to anybody, and anybody who watches this. I hope this is something that you will take to your heart. In life, you have options and choices, no matter if it's good or bad. You have a chance to take a bad situation and make it into a good one. It is up to you. When you wake up in the morning, you have to visualize the painting of the life that you want to live in your mind first. Get yourself into a good mental place. And then you physically live your life in that painting and you never let go of it. That, my friends, is how you live life, no matter how many dark clouds approaches you. You always make sure to know that when that rainstorm leaves, 99% of the time the sunshine will be there.
Well, that's amazing. And that's something that hopefully the right people hear and take it seriously, because I think we could all benefit from wisdom of that nature. John, you are welcome to hang around if you want to. I know it's been a long show, and I know you've got family and you've got things to do. Rihanna and I have a little bit of house cleaning to do before we wrap tonight. So if you want to stay and wrap with us, you're more than welcome to do so. But with sage wisdom like that, you have more than fulfilled your obligation tonight, good sir.
I appreciate that, my friends. I'm actually about to go downstairs and have dinner with the family, but I love you guys both dearly. Thank you so kindly for being gentlemen and scholars. So it has been a privilege.
That's John Bullard, ladies and gentlemen, one of the greats. Take his advice, listen to what he says, because it is incredibly profound stuff. And John will be back in action at Crash Tested Wrestling in just a little while. So we look forward to seeing you, John.
Absolutely. I'll see you guys all at ringside.
It's the golden voice, Rian.
Agreed.
And he's gone. That little bit at the end there, that was nice, wasn't it?
It was.
So let's talk about some things. I'm gonna kind of move this a little bit so you get more into the how was your sausage? You didn't eat the pancakes. Pancakes probably suck. They're a little cold.
All right.
I could warm them up.
Focus.
Focus. We're gonna get out of here. So let's talk a little bit about IPW from this past Sunday.
Okay.
Quite a show.
Agreed.
You had a lot of things happen in there. We had a lot of things happen in there. When you look back on it as information liaison, what are some of the high points for you? What do you take away from it in your memories from a show, to me, that has been one of the best that we've ever had there?
The fans, they were awesome. The vets weren't nearly as rowdy as they normally would be, but I think because they were all tired from drinking. But there are a lot more vets there than I expected to see. The village trustees were amazing to hang out with and talk with them briefly. Wrestlers themselves, amazing. Just everyone did what they were supposed to do. I'm not sure what else I need to.
No, it's nice to, to sit back, as John would call us, gentlemen, after the fact, and talk about, the good things that happened. You were doing many things at that show.
Mhm.
You were quasi ring announcing, you were playing music, you had a wrestling match, you had to deal with all the problems because, as liaison, the IPW brass is not there. So it's kind of all in your lap to coordinate.
Whenever someone shuts down, I have to step up.
Right. And, some of the matches changed from as they were advertised, so that's always a little bit stressful to try to, bring cohesion to chaos, which is never a easy thing for sure.
The only thing that actually changed was the contract signing, because neither one of them was there due to the heat, as far as Max Holiday and Backwoods, as far as things that were advertised.
Right.
That's why I'm like, what happened that I missed?
No,
I was doing a lot, just doing the information liaison stuff. So if there was something that you saw that I missed,
no, that was what I was talking about.
okay.
No, that was
All right.
the 100%. No, I thought it was a well-oiled machine. I mean, even, with the sound, you running around doing, many hats. I think it was a show that went off without a hitch. My family was there, and I haven't had them at one of my shows, and since 2019, and I'm gonna let you in.
Hopefully it's not the last, and hopefully we didn't embarrass you too.
Oh no, it was I like I said, they don't, they're not into wrestling like I am, and they're not, it's just not their thing. And I never push it upon them because you never want someone to sit there and take a seat away from someone who would like to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And they came, my aunt was visiting, and from New Hampshire. I don't see her but once a year. And my mom
brought her to a wrestling.
And well, she follows me on Facebook. She's a social media gal. And she's always said, I'd love to see what you do live. So I had a couple of things going on this weekend. And I had SCW at the brewery, but that's a little bit further than they probably wanted to drive. And it's a night show, and it's long, and everything. We'll talk about that in a minute. But Richton Park, matinee style on a Sunday afternoon, is perfect for my 82-year-old mother. She doesn't have to walk a great distance.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the day, so she doesn't get tired at night. So that was the one I brought them to, because the great thing about IPW is it's a very relaxed atmosphere for the most part. People come in, they buy their hot dogs, there was chicken, the bar is open.
The fact that they were actually doing made to order fried chicken was amazing to me.
And they were out there grilling, boy. They sold a lot of damn chicken.
Grilling the shit out of it. But go ahead.
So my mom and my aunt and my two sons came out to watch the show, which was great because again, they're not around often. They've got lives of their own. And my wife, who just abhors wrestling, surprised me. She wasn't supposed to come, but she did. So they were all there. And the indication that it was cool is, while I was backstage waiting my turn, I messaged each of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I never got a response, which means, and my wife confirmed it, my son never went to his cell phone the entire show. A 16-year-old not looking at his cell phone during the entire length of the chaos that ensued on a Sunday. That should tell you everything you need to know about IPW. If you can hold a 16-year-old non-wrestling fan's attention with entertainment for 3 hours, that's special. And I think that's the best way to describe IPW sometimes. It caters to everybody. It does everything. It does. And I think that's the fact that he didn't answer me, and my wife said, yeah, he never went to his cell phone once when we were having dinner. And when we had dinner immediately following it, I wasn't there to talk about it. I was just there to have dinner and enjoy my family. That's all they did is talk about it. My brother came. My brother hasn't seen a wrestling show of mine ever. So everybody was there. And that's all they wanted to talk about. I kidnapped one of the photos. So I gave it to my aunt. She took it back to New Hampshire with her. She's got it in a frame in her house now. So that's what this is. That's what IPW is. And that's what, it makes it so special. And, June 25th will go down, much like, it just seems like every show that we have, from when Rocket Pro in May to the time I spent with Russell to this show, it just seems like, I always say after every one of these things, this was one of the great days of my life. And it's the truth. I mean it every time, because something happens that ups the ante, that makes it better. I don't know how I'll top all of my family being there. The only one that wasn't there was my father, who's no longer with us. So, he has an excuse. And he hated wrestling. Well, I say he would, no way would old Rich be there. That's for sure. No, he would say you go out and play baseball. That's a real man's game. That he didn't do the wrestling. But that's neither here.
There's baseball bats in wrestling. It's fine.
Yes, there were. I felt the business end of one of the bros and whatever concoction weapon they had as they were wielding it. I have talked to a lot of people since the show, and a lot of people like to talk about our match, mm-hmm. the Triple Threat Champions Showcase. Mm-hmm. When you came into that ring, after we had been in there a minute, and you put the hands to me only 2 times, which thank you for that.
You're welcome. Could have been worse.
It could have been way worse, and I was having none of it. When you whacked me on the back and I looked up and I saw the eyes, that was not the eyes of the man sitting here. That was the eyes of the real deal from the past. I have seen that look before. And then you and Turtle got involved in it. And everybody I know said, "Is that real?" And I'm like, "Well, you saw it. What'd you think?" And I watched, there was some fan footage that made it its way on the line. And that was some fairly aggressive work you both put in on, it was very hard hitting, very fun to watch.
Hard hitting, yes. Aggressive, no. Once again, it could have been much, much worse.
Yes. It had an edge to it. It was edgy.
It's not an edge.
Not an edge.
It doesn't happen. Like, of everyone that was on that show, how many open palm strikes did you see?
Just one.
Like, no one really does that. No, like, it happens. Like, I don't know what you want me to say. I feel like there's something you want me to say.
No, I don't. I really don't.
And-
I'm just getting impressions. What you were thinking in there. How did you feel the match went? It was chaos. It was chaos the whole time.
I feel like, and this is probably the nicest and the realest thing that I could say, is that I feel like if I had been in there more than what I was, the match would have been a lot more fun for everyone involved.
I think that that's probably a pretty valid statement.
Because what took place with me being in there for the short amount of time, there was not a lot of fun that people had in that match. Because what I saw was genuine fear.
There's fear. There's fear.
Not just from the people.
No, there was fear.
There were people outside of the ring that were like, "What is going on?" There were people over on the other side that was just trying. There was a bunch of entertaining moments, but there was a lot of people who were like, maybe this is why Rion doesn't like to do things. maybe we shouldn't mess with Rion so much.
There was that moment that you had finished with Turtle momentarily, and I was just kind of laying in the corner, spectating myself at that point because I wanted no part of it. I saw what was going down. I wanted no part.
It happens. Two guys got aggressive, and one guy went down, which was myself. In case you weren't paying attention, I went down, and I took a massive ass whooping in the form of a turtle coming at me very heavily. That happened. You can look at the footage and see that
It's there.
Multiple punches and forearms and chops and splashes and all of the things. And I did my best. I did my best to keep it to keep up with them as much as possible. I just couldn't do it. I just could not keep up with it.
And then the workhorses happened, and that is seems to be the story of my life. Things go really well.
Yeah, they got me first.
Yeah, they got you first. They sure did. And then they got us all. And then they got me again.
Mm-hmm.
And then they got my family.
Yeah, they probably should have.
And then I had to get them again.
Probably had to figure that out.
Did
they get them verbally? Because I was on the ground, so I don't really know. Did they get them like physically or verbally?
Verbally.
Yeah, you can let that go.
Yeah. My mom hated them.
They should.
My mom hated
She's
Damian Gray.
She's not even from
Well, my mom's from here.
She's
my aunt is not from here.
So she'll be fine. Unless she comes to the next show, she'll be fine.
Yeah.
I wouldn't worry.
I'm not too worried about it, but some things happened after the match and there was some talking, and you grabbed the mic and you saw that
no one really wants to speak about it. So what you go
well, this is a very important thing. I really want to speak about it. Some things were said to and about my kids, and that is a hot button for me.
Mm-hmm.
So that things were about to change,
Mhm.
and I was going, and I had bad intentions, and you stopped it. How did you know?
Been wrestling for like 100 years. Like I can see things go awry. It's just what it is. I think everything worked out. No one got seriously hurt.
True.
Like everything worked out accordingly. The rumble happened. So it's that whole thing as far as information liaison. Sometimes you have to process information as it comes to you and work with what you got. That's what I do.
And you said some pretty strong things to me and Turtle and to everybody around. Just seemed to come to you on the fly. That's just part of being information liaison or being in tune with what's going on.
A little of both. A
Well,
little of both.
you saved some lives, maybe even my own.
Yeah, that's kind of what happens. It's so weird because if anyone was like at the show and you hear me now and you see me on this thing, you're like, how can that even be the same dude? You're like, that doesn't even make any sense. But I can tell you, and this is, I'm going to lean in here.
Lean in.
There was genuine fear in people's faces that day.
Mine.
And they didn't even know what the hell to do. It happens. Sometimes you get possessed by demons.
Well, that happened the night before. We're gonna talk about that real quick in a minute.
That's a segue, Steve.
It is a seg. Well, okay, we're gonna move. We'll move right on then. Enough has been said. We're going right.
Did you need me to go any further with the IPW?
I did
stuff?
not. I thought I did, but I realized I'm gonna make that quick turn left on the turnpike, right into Mantino, right.
We can talk about IPW stuff at a later time.
We'll talk about this more later. SCW Dissension, the first match of the night, started things off on the most ridiculous, surreal level. It was crazy. Obviously, you know, Jimmy Carrot and the person that comes to the ring with him on his face, Basil, the mask. Well, it's not really a mask. It's kind of a part of him. It's weird.
Mhm.
Him fighting Koa Laksamana in what ended up being Koa's final match at SCW. This is real. Last month, Carrot, at the end of the match when Koa was down, grabbed the lovely Kayleigh, his associate, his betrothed, and planted a very forced yet passionate kiss on the lips of the lovely Kayleigh. Of course, Koa took exception to it, but you know who else took exception to it? The president, Terry Allen. So things are happening, and I'm doing the ring announcing, the national anthem happens, and then all of a sudden Terry's music hits. So I introduce Terry Allen, and he comes out, takes the microphone with the first lady of SCW, and they make quite the handsome couple. And they called everybody to the ring. Okay. Carrot comes to the ring. Koa and Kayleigh come to the ring. Then Hunter Payne comes to the ring, and Terry Allen orders Hunter to restrain Jimmy Carrot so Kayleigh can get a shot at his face to respond to the kiss. We don't do that here. You make an egregious move. Now an egregious move is going to be made on you against your will. So Hunter Payne has got Jimmy Carrot in a bear hug, and Kayleigh wound up and put her hand all the way in Bourbonnais, brought it all the way through the turnpike, across the face of Mantino. It was a slap heard around the area, knocking Carrot loopy. And then Hunter just drops it.
Okay.
So that's how it starts. This is Terry Allen saying, when you commit egregious acts in a show that I run, there will be consequences. He asserted himself with authority, and now I don't think anybody else makes a move without the authorization of a Terry Allen. He basically said, this is what's going to happen to you if you cross the boss. Very powerful moment. The match that ensues, and it's, Carrot and Koa are two of the great workers right now. Very entertaining, high flying, high energy. At some point, Carrot goes and gets Basil off the ring post. And Basil winds up getting on Kalisa's head. Thus, Basil enters the body of Kalise. And now Kalise is a vessel for Basil. And bad things happen to Koa at the hands of Kalise because she was possessed by Basil. When they got Basil off of Kalise, Basil then wound up on the head of lead official Mike Brennan, aka Nubby, aka the Turtle. So now the Turtle is possessed by Basil, which led to the 1, 2, 3, and Jimmy Carrot winning the Genesis title. It was one of the most insane beginnings to a show I have ever seen live. You're going to get Ryan. He's here. This is your first time out, but I'll allow it. What's your question?
I can't believe I'm asking this. But we're here now. So Basil,
Basil. Yes, Basil.
was on lead official Mike Brennan,
Yes, he was.
aka the Amazing Turtle,
AKA Nubby Jones.
aka Nubby Jones. Did this Basil character show up at IPW on the following day?
Funny you should mention it, because there might be many indicators that there was some carryover, because he didn't seem to be himself. He, at one point on social media, apologized for saying a certain thing. And maybe that wasn't even Turtle. Maybe that was the remnants of the influence of said Basil. Timeout number 2. You have one left for this half.
This Basil
Basil.
that was already off of one person and got onto another.
Yes.
If we were in the same match, potentially, could Basil be separated into multiple entities?
I have to believe it's true, because when Basil was removed from Kalise, she still wasn't right and she was acting very odd. And then once Basil was removed from Turtle, it took a few matches for him to come back to being the call it down the middle official that he is. It's weird.
No, it's not. Works for me.
So I think maybe
thank you, SCW. You have helped out tremendously. Well, I don't even realize that you have helped out tremendously. Thank you very much.
Just as information liaison of IPW, if you could send this message from me to the home office, as much as I love Jimmy Carrot and Basil, we don't want that smoke.
I don't think smoke is what we have to deal with right now. There's plenty of smoke out there.
There's plenty of
coming
smoke
from Canada right
yes,
now.
it's John. Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff happening.
There's a lot of great things, a lot of great moments. The Rock and Wrestling shows, or Wrestle Rock as they call it. This was called SCW Dissension. The band Replay did a great work. The matches were great. Bonanza fought Jay Scott. Great match. Bonanza wins. JPH returned to SCW after some time off, and he fought prized pupil of the SCW school, Johnny Chaos. Johnny, that was a real challenge for Johnny Chaos, and he handled himself well. He's a young up and coming professional. JPH had to do some things to get the win over him, but I think that rivalry is just beginning.
Okay.
The Bro Bros debuted at Dissension for the first time, and they fought the Titans of Destruction, BJ Price, El Dorado, for the tag team titles. And they gave them what for. And for a while, it looked as though the Bros were going to pull off the upset. I have never seen the Bros with an edge.
Mhm.
They were not the fun-loving Bros that I am accustomed to, that make me want to be dad bro. There was something deeper and darker going on there. And the crowd did not like them very much. And I have never seen a crowd react negatively to the Bros. So it was a very strange night for me. I don't know if Basil had anything to do with that too, but it was weird.
I might just start blaming Basil for a lot of stuff.
There's a lot of crazy things that Basil could be responsible for. Titans won the match. They are still your champions. Odinson the Berserker is a hallowed name at SCW. He is on the twilight of his career. Next month, as a matter of fact, is going to be his grand finale in this business as a performer. And he took on a brand new, another training school guy who is a former top ranked MMA fighter named Apex. And Apex came in, and his first match in SCW and upset Odinson the Berserker and acquitted himself quite well. He is a hell of a striker, and he is fast as lightning. So I look forward to Apex and seeing where he goes from here. Travis will tell you at nauseum that Apex is a pretty special athlete. Then we had the Battle Royal for the High Voltage title. That's Travis. He's the GM of High Voltage.
Right.
That's the NXT of SCW, if you could look at it like that. And a lot of men were in this Battle Royal. The champion is Warren C. Freiberg III, Esquire, Limited, whatever you want to
That
call
was
it.
going to be my question. That I wasn't sure if he was defending it in this Royal or
Yes.
there was purpose. Okay, that I was just curious. Please continue.
So we're watching the action. We're calling the action. Me, Travis, and Trainwrecker from POW.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought he got eliminated. So did Travis. We hadn't seen Warren for a while. I thought maybe he got eliminated on the other side and we didn't see it because we're off to the side. Odinson the Berserker ends up being the final man in the ring. And he is getting ready to celebrate. They're about to call the match. And all of a sudden, Freiberg comes out from under the ring. So apparently at some point he slid out, hit under the ring till everybody else got eliminated, and then came and eliminated Odinson, thus retaining his High Voltage with some of the biggest shenanigans of the night.
Okay.
Some say smart, I say coward. I don't know. I guess it's your matter of perspective. Then we had the return of Elite Pain as a tag team, Marco Anthony and Hunter Payne, taking on the new tag team of the Torture Killers, which is Ace of Spades, Scott Spade, and POW Phenom Kazile. And that was obviously Mr. Misery was there, and it was a chaotic match. And Elite Pain gets the victory, but Spade and Kazile got the damage. It was a rough match for Elite Pain. James Creed, the franchise, the heart and soul of SCW, he is the guy. Took on scumbag attorney Eric Schultz of Punitive Damages. That's the name of their team. The Sheik and Schultz and Freiberg.
Of course.
I call them puny genitals, but it's actually pronounced Punitive Damages. That's what it's pronounced. I was mistaken. You can see the obvious errors of my ways. Schultz put up a great fight. And Schultz, as much as I dislike him, he is a terrific wrestler. But James Creed was the better man and gets the win. Then, as the show went into hour number 4, and we welcomed in a brand new day, your boy, Mason Perks, one of the prides and joys of Jimmy Blaze and POW Entertainment, fought Benny Vargas from the Boston Brawler. And it was a hell of a match. I've never seen Benny fight as hard as he did, but Mason Perks is extraordinary.
This is true.
And he gets the win. I want to circle back to the Elite Pain tag team match. They injured Marco Anthony. As I said, bad things happen. Hello, C-Red.
What's up?
How was your meeting?
Very productive.
Come on, raise up those letters. Let the kids see them. There we go. So Marco Anthony gets hurt, and Jimmy Blaze comes to the rescue and is now the tag team partner of Hunter Payne. And Spade and Kazile said, no, he's out. This match is over. But because I have President Allen's ear, I assumed that Terry would want the match to continue. So as acting interim organizer when Terry Allen, maybe I could be called information liaison there when Terry's not there. So I acted in his behalf, restarted the match with Jimmy Blaze as the tag team partner, and then Blaze and Payne over Spade and Kazile. Who would have thought just a year ago with that war that Blaze and Payne would tag team together?
Right.
And then in the main event, it was IPA, the great tag team from Dún Laoghaire, Ireland, Meat Hooks O'Bannon and Kevin O'Reilly, taking on Dysfunction. Normally Kyle Roberts and Brandon Espinoza.
Right.
Espinoza was not there. Roberts comes out and I'm like, there's only one of you. You're going to be in a handicap match. He said no, that I have a partner. And then out comes the evil genius.
Okay.
Now, earlier in the night, in the James Creed Schultz match, Aaron Xavier came out and attacked Creed afterwards and challenged him. Well, he didn't really attack him. He came out and challenged him, then attacked him. Said, do you have the balls to fight me at our next show? And Creed did not answer and left the ring with Aaron Xavier angry. So Xavier and Kyle Roberts fight IPA and they win. And IPA goes away and Kyle Roberts goes away and Aaron Xavier is in the ring. And from out of nowhere, James Creed delivers a shot, knocking Aaron Xavier out.
Okay.
Accepting his challenge. And Aaron Xavier is just out. I don't think he heard it. So Angel comes into the ring, resuscitates him. I get on the mic. I say, Aaron, in case you were asleep when this happened, James Creed accepts your challenge. And that's how the show ended. Aaron Xavier was injured, but happy that I think that it wasn't happy that he got hurt, but was happy that the challenge is accepted. And that's going to happen in July. So there you go. SCW Dissension in a nutshell. Perhaps JFW could have described it better, and they probably did. But that is it in a nutshell. So John Bullard says hi. So here we are. And, you know, it's fortuitous that you're here as we're getting ready to wrap this package at 8:44 post-meridian. The big battle royal at IPW this past Sunday.
League Royale.
The big League Royale this past Sunday. So many people in this match from all different areas. The Swansons, the Bros, myself and Turtle.
Spades.
Yes, the Workhorses. So there was a lot of, but the stakes were the highest. The stakes were high because whoever won that Royale was going to get a shot at Damian Gray's title. That's bold. That's bold booking right there. And having Gray as the host, political commentary on everything all afternoon ad nauseum was also bold. But it came down, well, I was still kind of backstage. I didn't see, after I was eliminated, I didn't see all of the ending of it. Rion, Red, take me through those last magic moments of the League Royale.
Yeah, Red, take us through those last magic moments in the League Royale.
I don't think there was any magic per se. I think seeing Johnny Nye return to IPW and the fans actually gave him a decent reception. And I think it's based on what happened a few months ago at Rocket Pro wrestling. Knowing that he's not, I find it funny. I don't know if any of you, either of you, I should say, which is better grammar, seen a post that I saw today. And it was Rocket Pro, explaining that there will be a fan fest again.
Power Hour will be back.
Right, but that the idols were featured and all of them were together.
Yeah, I
like
saw
one big happy picture, and it's
I
like,
commented on that immediately.
well, I didn't, but I just I laughed because I was like, okay, this is horrible, but okay, if this is what you're trying to do to promote, this is the wrong group to promote right now.
There it is. There's what Red's talking about. Look at them all.
So
break it down, Red, while we're here. You've got Cade. I'm sorry. You've got Kevin Cade and Damian Gray, former Rocket Pro Tag champs that lost. You've got Johnny Nye, who is now not even an idol anymore. You've got Daddy Flash over there on the end, who's kind of off on an island with all those goddamn children. And then you got the Symbols that are in exile. We sent them away beltless, prideless.
Yeah.
I don't understand why that's an odd,
right.
That's odd feature.
I found that odd, but anyway, going back to said League Royale, so Johnny came in, and you can also see that Damian was not pleased, and I even heard a few times where he made comments about, how Johnny can show up and enter the League Royale, but he can't return his phone calls. He's been reaching out to Johnny for months, and Johnny hasn't returned any calls. So it came down to Muggsy, myself, Johnny Nye, and Nick Diamond. All I know is, first of all, it took me at least 48 hours just to get some air back in my lungs. I kept getting stumped on all day. Had to check my ribs, make sure they wasn't broke. Yes, sir.
In your defense, sir, Canada has been sending smoke like for the last 48 hours or so.
So it's been hard to.
I'm just saying that if I get the stomping of things, but you can blame Canada on this one if you can't breathe. Because they've been sending stuff for a while now, and it's still out there.
It's all Magnum McLaren's fault.
I'm just letting you know that it's okay. But
Yeah, so it was horrible. I can't remember who eliminated Muggsy. I remember Johnny trying to pick me up, and I said, okay, well, if Johnny gonna try to pick me up, I'm just gonna put all my weight on Johnny. And and these 187 pounds would not let Johnny no, I was dead. No, you're gonna have to muscle me up. But then I see Johnny somehow go over the top, so he was eliminated. And then it was odd because I thought I was in there by myself. But then my son, he kept yelling at me, and I why, what? And he kind of informed me to check my back. And that's D'Angelo still. And when I checked my back, Nick Diamond was coming to try to eliminate me. but I kind of reversed it and threw him over. And yes, I am the League Royale winner, and will face Damian Gray some kind of way in August. Like, okay, all
Red, are
right,
you ready to be the league champ?
man. First of all, I gotta make it to August. I haven't. It hasn't even wrapped around my head. I mean, so much happened. I ended the feud with Sean Danger. You
And
know,
that was a
for
beautiful moment.
5 years, me and Danger have feuded. I've hated his guts. He's hated my guts. But if nothing else, I am proud of the man he's become.
Champion now.
Well, he's always, you know what? I'm more proud of who he is as a person. I've seen so much growth in Danger, and I told him to his face, um, after the show, you can ask for a better friend than Sean Danger. You really couldn't. Danger is there on a show day before everybody else, you know, unless he's helping out, going to get the ring. You know, Danger is there. He is putting in work. He is setting up everything from the ring to the chairs to the video equipment to record. And then he's one of the last, to leave.
I can verify that.
So who wouldn't want a guy like that? And Danger has been at shows where, guess what? He hasn't been booked, but he'll show up and help out if needed. And he is there sometimes just to sit and say, I'm just here to, support you guys and watch the show. And it's like, damn. So Sean Danger is aces in my book. And I wanted him to know, and I wanted in front of his family to know. They've watched some brutal moments with being Danger, you know,
You almost
and
killed that boy twice.
I wanted them to know, and I wanted him more importantly to know that my respect level for him is 1,000. I love him. I am proud that him and Trax won the tag titles. Hey, and it was brilliant how they won it. So I give all the kudos to them. But yeah, I haven't even wrapped my head that I have to face Damian Gray in August. And I mean, August will be August. We'll see how it goes.
We still got to get through July.
Well, I mean, right
No idea
now,
what's gonna happen.
thank God I ain't seen, where I gotta, oh yeah.
There you go. There it is.
Hug it out, bro. Hug it out.
Hug it out.
I think the fan's face in the right corner says it all. I think that says it
Yeah.
all.
It's beautiful.
And actually, if you look to the left, you see Mama Lack, and she's smiling and clapping. So I think it was a good moment overall. So
Indeed.
yeah, I haven't thought about August yet. Brother, come August, I'm gonna say my prayers, brother, eat my vitamins, brother. And what you gonna do when this 6-foot python runs wild on you?
See, this is what happens when you bring Red on at the butt end of the show. You get Hulk Hogan impressions. That was beautiful, by the way. Red, we had an amazing time with John Bullard. I wish you could have been here for it. I tried to do your roses to the best of my ability, but it's just not the same when you're not here. It's not the same when Rachel's not here either. We missed her tonight. She's tending to being a mom tonight. So Rion was here live in home, and that's always great. And it's when you're not here that I miss you. And I miss her and the Power Hour being a unified front. I love the time we get to spend together, and it just it's not the same when you're not here. So no more missing shenanigans, young man.
Hey, you moved the date. You moved the
I
date.
did. I had no choice. I was
I understood, but then once I realized that there's a conflict, well, I gotta do that first, and then the irony part is I had shut the computer down and I was getting ready to go, and then I was like, "There's something else I'm supposed to be doing." The podcast. Let me jump on the podcast. Oh my God.
there's the July 30th.
July 30th, baby.
Blue graphic.
Hey, but don't it look so good that there's new tag team chat? Now, if we can just get new trios chaps.
Yeah, I think that would be great. They were pain in my ass the entire show. Although it did feel very good as I was coming into the battle royal to go over to go over to the sound table and deck both of them and knock them out for what they were doing to my people.
All I'm gonna say is and the informational liaison, he's always busy. So I don't think he
You're always
because he's always running around. So he doesn't pay attention to the locker room. But when they're there, there's this air in the locker room, like, ugh.
Might be my favorite picture of the day.
No, I think
talked about how I run around by all means.
You do.
Please continue.
You do. Don't point
That's a
out
brief
that
moment
this,
of relaxation.
right, this one moment, right, that he got to sit down. And again, and I don't know, you know what? So I did listen or tried to listen to the JFW podcast.
I listened to it.
And after it was like they briefly went over what happened Sunday. I was like, okay, I'm not trying to listen to y'all predictions for
Money in the Bank.
right. Like everybody's got an opinion. So okay.
They were booking fantasy wrestling, which was an interesting twist.
I
did.
I mean, it's fun. I mean, again, being the original podcaster with Jay Wash, that's all we used to do.
Podcasts that you made you made all of podcasts.
Started podcasts.
No, I said one of the original podcasters. Especially here in Chicago.
Gee.
Please continue. Please continue.
We were doing this 9 years ago before this was hot. I think it was it might have been longer than that. I got to go back and check, see if I can get access. Yeah, I mean, fantasy booking and all of that stuff is cool, but I mean, I don't think that the one thing, and he might punch anybody, and if he does, he's gonna punch you, Steve, because you're sitting right there.
I don't need that smoke.
I don't think nobody gives the informational liaison enough credit for what he does throughout the day. I'm just saying, I mean, when you sit back and see he's trying to disperse information left and right and trying to make sure everything is going smoothly, like that's what I honestly was watching Sunday. And it was like, damn, he's doing all of that and tending to everything else, music, it was just like this dude does a lot, So I hope people appreciate, and what he does. And I mean not just the fans, but the locker rooms, the office of IPW, that people appreciate. And again, I'm not just blowing smoke up his ass, but again, when you can sit back for a minute and watch people, like it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
James Brown, hardest working man at IPW.
Yeah, very true. And kudos to you, sir. The family came out and supported. And I know for you, uh, that was a great moment. Uh, you have a beautiful family, lovely wife, beautiful mother, auntie, two handsome sons. I don't know how that's your brother. You must be adopted. Uh, but like, dude, that must be. I've felt that feeling years. Matter of fact, I'll tell you when the last time I felt that feeling. The night that I honestly first stepped into the ring for Windy City at Battle of the Belts. Now I've felt different feelings throughout the years. I've had my kids and wife, but
Babies.
for me, I knew what you felt that day when you saw your mom and you came out. That was the same feeling I felt when my dad, God rest his soul, I miss him. And him and my mother were ringside to see my very first one. And that's the only time my dad has ever saw me wrestle. That's the only time. But to know that the only time he saw me was he was willing to fight somebody for me.
One of my favorite stories you've ever told on this show.
I'm like, get him, pops. So I get, that moment for you was special in so many different ways. So I hope, if nothing else, you cherish that and you hold on to that
Forever.
because I am learning more and more as December is coming. It is not about titles. It is not about paydays. It is not about anything else. To me, wrestling is about moments. And that is what you got on Sunday, was that moment. And that moment supersedes everything else. It's not about the titles. It's not about the champion showcase. It's about that moment and walking out and looking to your right and seeing your family sitting there supporting you. So cherish that, man. Cherish it.
We'll never ever forget it as long as I'm walking the earth. Getting to hand the belts to my kids and the glasses to my wife and high five my brother and then punch the workhorses for talking shit. It's I can close my eyes and I can see it like it was 10 minutes ago. It's an amazing experience. And you don't get those moments very much. And then Rion did what he did as I was going to kill all of them, which made the moment even more important because of what he said and how he said it. So you couldn't write a better script, and I will always be grateful. It was, I almost had to delete that post today because some Yahoo started trying to fight me and Turtle, who we don't know, on social media. But it's been deleted and handled.
Oh, I got it.
Of course you do. Of course you do.
That's not a problem. You don't have to worry about it.
I'm not even worried about it. But it was you don't forget things like that ever.
Yeah. Oh, so let me also apologize to the informational liaison. I understand that what I did after said League Royale was not maybe appropriate. But
I don't know what you're talking about.
When you put your hands on my child, and you get in my face, you gonna get slapped with a belt. So that's the way we were raised, old school.
That's a new belt.
Well, again, and I apologize. Again, I apologize, sir. Again, I'm apologizing. But the crowd seemed to love it.
Again, you don't want to get that look that we got in that ring.
Well, I don't want to. I didn't want to, and that's why I'm
Lucky.
apologizing. I don't want to get it.
You would have had open palms. You'd have had open palms. That would have hurt on your head.
I don't want any issue.
But it was sounded good.
with the office and the informational liaison and IPW as a whole. I don't want no issues. Just again, he needed to be shut up.
It
He
happened.
really did.
Just,
So
just make sure that you're ready for August.
I will.
That's all I can say, and congratulations.
Nah, well, I mean,
Brett does it again.
I do what again?
Win big moments. And that was
Nah.
yeah. Anyway, Red, thanks for spending the last few minutes of the show with us. It's great that you came on. I really am glad to have seen you and talked to you about it. It's pretty cool. The Power Hour will not be seen live next week.
What?
We will not be doing this live next week.
We not no sparklers and fireworks.
No, but there will be a new episode of the Power Hour next week. Well, it seems that the Power Hour found a flux capacitor. So next week, we are going back, Marty. We're going back to the future. Now, what does that mean?
I don't know.
This
don't know.
past Saturday at the VFW Hall, we did an impromptu Power Hour live at the flea market, and we taped it. So although we won't be live next week, you will get to see the chaos of what happened the day before the show as we are reacting to what has already taken place, thus getting in the flux capacitor and taking you all back to the future next Tuesday night on the 4th of July. How about that for a teaser? He don't even care. Ladies and gentlemen, on
It's
behalf
gonna be interesting. Hey, but okay. So I don't remember if we talked about who's gonna be on the following.
Oh, I can tell you. I think we did. I think we gave, but I'll get them back up.
Did we? I don't remember us doing that.
The July 11th will return to live action here on the Power Hour, and we will be talking to CTW President, Chief Executive Officer. The one Williamson returns to the Power Hour, but he will be somewhere in the future. Never get enough of that.
Did you buy him that?
When you have a flux capacitor, you have only so many times you can use it. So, on behalf of The Real Deal, on behalf of the Urban Sensation, on behalf of Rachel, who is out being a great mom, I'm Steve. Thanks to John Bullard for being with us tonight. And have a happy 4th of July, y'all. Have a great time, friends and family. Enjoy yourselves. And we will see you on July 11th. Good night, folks.